Everybody, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to be reacting to a debate, and if you can tell by the title, this debate is going to get pretty heated. It is Republicans versus Democrats for Jubilee middle ground, and I knew this video was coming out soon, not just because we reacted to another Jubilee middle ground where they teased this, but because I was filming a Jubilee video the day that this one was filmed, and I knew this one was going to get crazy, and they sort of anticipated behind the scenes at Jubilee that this one was going to be a little bit much as well. And they would have been correct. It is such a heated time to have a debate about who's voting for Trump and at the time who's voting for Biden. This was filmed prior to Biden deciding not to run for re-election. So they've been all over the timeline here in filming these videos and then having something crazy happen and then posting the video after. So that's what we're going to be reacting to today. Before we get into all that, of course, we have Taylor in Nashville.
Hey, happy Monday, guys. I see a lot of you are saying that you've already watched this. You know, it was a very painful, difficult watch. We saw some similar sentiment in the comments of the original video. Hopefully, Amala can walk us through it in a way that is unpacking it and exposing some of the nuance in the arguments and makes it a little bit more palatable. I'm reminded of the shows like The Rings of Power. I can't bring myself to watch it, but I do, so I can watch the people that I like reacting to it, and maybe this will give a similar vibe. So
yeah,
we're here for y'all.
Man, fingers crossed. We're gonna try to put up with this just like you guys have to put up with it. So without further ado, let's start the video. Democrats versus Republicans 2024.
You're so smart. You don't think an illegal immigrant has ever voted in the presidential federal election?
Probably not.
Oh my God!
Okay, editors, whoever did that ate that. Y'all ate that up.
In America.
I'm Ka Takahashi, and I'll be moderating this discussion, Democrats versus Republicans.
The shooting at Trump's rally will change the course of the election. Will the agreeers please step forward?
I mean, what do you mean by change the course of the election? Do you mean like the election's going to go in a totally different way than what it was going to go before he was shot at? I don't know. I think it would change a lot of people's minds. I think a lot of people have witnessed the polarization taking place, and to see it sort of come to full fruition with Trump being shot at in this attempted assassination, that might have maybe made them recognize, oh, wait a second, what's going on here? And I'm going to look into this guy a little bit more. I think it galvanized a lot of people to support Donald Trump, who maybe were sitting on the fence, but I don't know that it changes the course of the election. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this next election. Things keep changing every other day, so I'm not even going to try to make any predictions at this point because I don't know what's going on. We just saw a white women for Kamala Zoom call with 100,000 white women on it talking about their white privilege and how they can't wait to donate to Kamala. I don't know what world we're living in right now, but we're here to talk about it. So, but I'm not going to make any predictions.
Yeah, it's going to be something else crazy the next week. People do have a short-term memory. As significant as an event as that was, I think the long and short of it is it does probably change the calculus in the overall final analysis of everything. But is it something that will actually sway the end result in and of itself? I don't necessarily think so for the reasons you stated.
Yeah, really hard to tell on that one.
I think everybody has seen the picture of him raising his fist, and I personally, I'm from Texas, and so all of my friends have been posting it, and I'm friends with a lot of Republicans, respectively, and they've been posting it, and it's kind of an empowering thing now, and it's kind of causing people to want to vote for him, and a lot of moderates are saying it now as, oh, he is strong, and like what he went through, like he can go through anything, you know? So a lot of moderates now are leaning towards wanting to vote for him, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, he was shot, but let's call it what it is. It was an attempted assassination, which failed. Obviously done by a liberal, because Republicans would know how to shoot guns.
That's not true. It was a Republican.
That's not true.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
It Matthew Crook.
I'll go ahead.
Donated to Act Blue, so.
When
Okay.
did he donate? He donated January 20th, 2021, and then he registered as a Republican September 2021.
That's because to create a narrative, if you're a school shooter or whatever, an assassination.
Yeah, this is the old
Yeah, that's why he wore a shirt. He wore a shirt called Demolition.
Party does not matter when you
This
put
has
out
been
a
a
video
plan
saying he
for
hates
3
Donald Trump.
years. Yeah.
Please, I can't. I'm losing brain cells. I'm losing brain cells. They're just all talking over one another. There's no chill in this room. Just to get the facts straight, Matthew Crooks was registered Republican. People don't know exactly why, and we've yet as the public to figure out why he was registered Republican and then ended up trying to assassinate Donald Trump. He also did donate to Act Blue, which is a left-leaning organization. So, and I think he donated $15, and you can go back and check the Jubilee fact check for the exact amount. So there's a little bit of differing information. Some people are saying that he was a Republican, but he just didn't like Donald Trump. Others were saying that he registered Republican in order to vote in the Republican primary so that he could sway who the Republican candidate was because he did not like Donald Trump. There are lots of different theories. Baby girl, we don't know. We don't know. Okay. So we'll let them scream over each other again.
Meditating.
You don't think
Regardless of the motives,
let me
he
just
was
answer
shot.
this. You don't think a person that is a murderer or an attempted murderer probably has fantasized about it for longer than 3 years?
No, people do stuff like that on a
He's probably killed
whim.
animals. I'm just saying, if you're going to be a shooter, you've probably fantasized
No,
about shooting
people
somebody.
do that stuff on a
So
whim
yeah, I
all
would
the
say that
time.
it would make sense that he's probably thought about killing somebody for over 3 years.
I mean, yeah,
that's a possibility.
probably killing somebody,
Exactly,
but
you
it's
agree with
not
me.
like.
Okay, let's let Emily
Let me
finish her
finish.
point. Let's
appreciate
let
that. Thank
Emily.
you.
I'm very well known. I do common sense takes, okay? Left, right, doesn't matter. You tried to assassinate someone.
Did she just say I'm very well known? I do common sense takes. That's crazy. That's crazy work. Crazy thing to say out loud.
I'm gonna safely say you don't like that person, okay? You're probably on the opposite team. Other than that, yes, I intake a lot of news. It's what we all do for a living. Everyone woke up. I see all the stats, everything going up. We vote on, who's gonna win, all these things. Every single person with a brain is like, he just won. So yes, I do think this changes things. That's all.
Yeah, this.
I can understand having that attitude of seeing something that major, an assassination attempt on a president, which hasn't happened in 40 plus years. It's a crazy thing to occur, a historic thing to occur. For Trump to stand up and put his fist up in the air and have that iconic moment, also crazy and will sway public opinion a lot, I think, in support of him. But I do think a complacency can be born out of that idea that because this happened, he's just automatically going to be ushered into presidency and he's going to be voted in. I would not rely on that too much, given the current state of our United States and the media apparatus and how quickly people move on from information, even what we believe to be super groundbreaking information like an assassination attempt. Sometimes the media gets so crazy and just the threshold is so high for keeping people's attention that people will move on from these things very quickly, even though they feel and are historic when they happen.
The way that it changes it, though, is that it validates a very falsified argument that Biden wants to go after his political opponents. Okay, well, Tulsi Gabbard said it on Bill Maher recently, okay? So Republicans are, propagating that theory that Biden wants to go after political opponents and he wants to promote, political violence, right? And obviously you're already saying that he was a liberal.
Propaganda when
so
Biden
it's
said that Trump needs to be put in a bullseye 5 days ago?
5 days ago.
Yeah, when
He
did
tweeted it. He tweeted it. And
It's
the
on his
campaign-
Instagram right now
The
as well.
campaign took it down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course they took it down.
great.
And then the fact check here, Biden says, it was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing. And when you go back and watch that interview, Biden has no clue what he's saying. And you know what? What I will say is I don't think Biden actually penned the tweet or the comment that went out. It was probably an intern or an aide or something like that. But still, it's very much in the same vein of a lot of the rhetoric used revolving around Donald Trump. Jake Tapper famously compared Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler, which has been just a very common thing amongst left-leaning pundits to say things like that. Biden has referred to him as a dictator. Many on the left have said if Trump is reelected, this will be the last Democratic election that the United States ever has, that he will function as this fascist totalitarian force in the United States. So whether or not that's actual incitement of violence is, it's not necessarily, I think, in the legal sense. But what would you think the natural progression of behavior would be when you're hearing somebody being compared to Adolf Hitler and a fascist totalitarian dictator? You would probably want to take that person out if they feel like an actual threat to a democracy in your nation.
Real convenient, but I don't know if that's propaganda.
But I want to ask this question, Danny, and it's like saying, yeah, my girlfriend goes to another school. When you say your friends feel empowered by this, just admit that you feel empowered from that video. Seeing his
No, I don't at all.
You're telling me you didn't
I think
get
it's
any sense of pride
embarrassing. No,
after
I saw
getting
that.
shot, standing up, raising your fist, saying fight.
Is it bad for me to say I am kind of
like that
happy
at
it
all?
kind of happened? I don't
That's
know.
bad. Yes.
Yeah.
Here's why it's
Wait, hold it, bring it to you. You're happy.
It is a bad thing to say that you're happy that the former president was nearly assassinated. Just put that on the record. Bad thing to say. Bad thing to think. Bad thing to feel.
I'm not happy what happened
You just
at
said
the
I'm
rally.
kind of happy that
I mean,
happened.
yeah, I hate Trump. I hate Trump.
So
Maybe
much
it
so
scared him.
Okay, but what's going on in your life that you wish murder or death upon somebody?
I don't wish that he died.
But you just said that.
I don't wish that he died. I just want him to come within an inch of death. To clarify.
You'd be happy if he did.
I
don't condone violence, but I hope I see
someone out there loves
Wait, hold on, Alex. Repeat that
Wait,
again.
I want you guys to both say this out loud, very clearly.
Please.
to
Wait,
the
what did you
camera.
just say? I said I don't condone violence, but I hope I see something. What does that mean? It means that Trump got it coming to him. He's been saying this shit for years and
I
years
hope you guys get a
and
nice
years.
position so you can
There's
speak
bound to
up.
be
Nice.
some point where a Republican or a Democrat, somebody loses their shit and says, I'm not happy with the president saying all this all the time. I'm not happy with him trying to destroy democracy. I'm not happy with him trying to destroy the American dream.
911. Hello. What is this guy's address? Hell, I don't know how it became so commonplace for people to be able to say things like this about anybody, let alone a former president. It's insane to wish harm, violence, death, an assassination, anything you wanna say upon somebody, let alone a former president of the United States. The vitriol is through the roof here, and the fact that they're saying this as if it's something normal to say, as if it's a normal sentiment to share amongst friends and actually strangers, random people who you do not know, that's crazy.
And for the side of I support saving democracy by wanting the leading duly chosen candidate of the opposing party to be assassinated. That's not very democratic in my calculation, but that seems to be totally lost on him.
Right. Meanwhile, the candidate that they have now representing their side wasn't chosen democratically, which is just wild.
That's how my generation feels. That's how
is that how
plenty of
America
people
is
in
now?
the city feel. That's how plenty of people
that
in
how
this
America
county
is
feel.
now?
That's how 70 million people.
We're gonna go and kill
Really quick,
people.
do you condone?
Yes, that's exactly what happens all the time in America.
Do you condemn the Trump shooter and do you condemn political violence?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. So here's why this changes everything. It is because we just saw an image of our president, somebody that has been politically persecuted for years.
Of course, I recognize Aldo. Aldo works for PragerU, so we used to work together. So shout out Aldo.
He was impeached twice. I was there in Battle Creek, Michigan, on the night of his second impeachment. This is a man, and you may not agree with it, but what you just said is that you hope something happens. And when Republicans hear that, when conservatives hear that, that does validate that people want violence. And
somebody from the Heritage Foundation just said that they want a bloodless revolution so long that the left doesn't
wrong,
have it.
and that is wrong. That is
good thing that he cleared that and said that is wrong. You can't just go, well, your side said, somebody on your side said this. It's just like, okay, well, we're not talking about that. We're talking about what you said. And meanwhile, I'll go ahead and condemn what was said on my side of things, in air quotes, because just what are the sides anymore? But that doesn't validate what you said.
Also, just got to point out, bloodless revolution would be, by definition, nonviolent. So
I guess
there's also that.
He followed that statement up by saying, as long as the left allows it to be bloodless, then it will be fine. Which still, you could argue he's saying, well, if the left starts something, then we're going to respond to it. But still, it's just like, oh my gosh, just shut it.
And what you just said.
But these are the people, these are the pundits that you're relying on.
I don't rely on them. You don't know anything about me. You don't know what I watch. You don't know who I listen to. You don't know where I get my.
Well, let me. What did?
And I want to finish really quick. The reason why this changes everything is because we just saw a man who was politically persecuted. He was shot, and his first instinct, was to get up, bloodied, beaten, raise his fist, and tell his supporters to fight. Whether or not you agree with that, there is something in that image that resonates with a lot of Americans, and it displays courage, it displays bravery, and a lot of moderates, who you probably disagree with, that is going to resonate with them too.
And he said that knowing those could be, knowing full and well those could be his final words. He didn't know what happened. When you're in a state of shock like that, when something like that happens to you, he knew those could be his final words. He's going to go and tell his supporters to fight. See, this is the problem. You guys incite violence. We don't.
I wish I could see this guy's face. but the MAGA hat is covering it, which young people, we don't wear hats inside. And I don't know if your grandpas aren't around to tell you don't wear your damn hat inside. It's a sign of disrespect. And the fact that like your political ideology that you're wearing on this hat is blocking your face, and it's like blocking me being able to see your eyes and like the expression that you have when you're sharing your thoughts with me, is just a metaphor for where we're at right now politically as a country. Just take the hat off. And he's saying, some interesting things. I'm not attacking his opinion here. I'm just saying, take the damn hat off.
What was January 6th then?
January 6th.
Charlotte's January 6th was okay.
You just said that it started. Happened.
100 million Americans are pissed off right now. We just saw our favorite president get shot on national television. Where are the riots? No, I see peaceful. I see peaceful support outside of Trump Tower in New York. I see peaceful support all across the country. Social media exploding. Elon Musk endorsing him. That's how we protest. How you guys protest?
When the left's convicted felon got shot, George Floyd, you guys rioted. When our convicted felon got shot, peaceful protests.
Okay.
Not our convicted felon. Oh my gosh, what is going on? What is happening? But to his point, to his credit, what he's saying is correct. It just actually is correct. When George Floyd, lost his life at the hands of a police officer or an overdose, whichever way you view it, people took to the streets and rioted. And now the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, we have videos of her encouraging the rioting and saying they're not going to stop and they should not stop. So that's very interesting. When you juxtapose that with Donald Trump on a day like January 6th saying, use your voice, but do so peacefully, that is a totally different image. Meanwhile, we're being told that President Trump is the one who's responsible for inciting violence and that his side of the political aisle is more prone to political violence. The stories don't seem to add up, given that we know those two different facts.
Okay, let's bring on the disagreeers. You guys want to come on in?
Y'all gonna have a visit from the fucking feds, though.
We're gonna hear from them first, and then y'all
gonna go after y'all online hard.
For a minute there, I thought to myself, people who dealt in Earth One facts were coming today. Look.
Earth One facts? What does that mean? Do you know what that means? What's Earth One facts?
Earthworn?
Did he say Earth One facts? Y'all let me know in the chat. I don't know what that means.
Look, I categorically reject all kinds of political violence against all people. I see you readying your next line for your Tucker Carlson audition tape. Hold on to
Tucker
it.
Carlson's my biological stepdad. Go ahead.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so you didn't have to practice it. I'm just giving you shit. I'm just teasing. Look, nobody really wants to see a president assassinated. There's a small, tiny minority of people who might, but most everyday Americans don't want to see political violence at all. I think were I someone who wanted to use every possible opportunity to improve my electoral chances, I probably would run with a ball that was thrown to me that would make me look like a martyr.
I hope what he's saying is true, that most Americans don't want that, or like the average person on their side does not want it. I do want to remind that after this assassination attempt was trending on the internet, what was also trending alongside it was things like "how do you miss" or "you had one shot," were people encouraging this assassin to have been successful in his shot, and they were angry that he wasn't successful in his attempt. So I don't know how many Americans have to feel that way for it to trend, but a lot, presumably. So.
And 2 out of the 4 people on the panel at least expressed some sort of vague sympathy for wishing that something would have happened to Trump. So it's not the tiny minority that he's suggesting, at least.
Okay, got it. There you go. That's 50% on at least the people picked by Jubilee to represent your side. So something to think about.
But I got to say, none of us represent the people who are going to make this election either way. We all have strong opinions. We all consume political news before 6 weeks out from Election Day. None of us are qualified to speak to the people who will decide this election. But to be clear, I don't think it helped him necessarily, just because it's not anywhere near the craziest thing that's probably going to happen between now and November. I think people take for granted that, this is early July. Months will pass. All kinds of crazy things have happened early in previous election cycles that mattered not by Election Day. So, do what you will with your I assume you genuinely mean arguments about people on the left being more violent than the right, but at the end of the day, to the actual prompt being asked, no, I don't think it will impact the election ultimately.
I have a really simple question. What do you think about
Before we
side?
rebuttal, let's hear from all the disagreeers, then we can jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I'll build on that. I think we're too far out from the election for people's memories to retain this. Things move quickly.
It's less than 4 months.
Yeah, 4 months is an eternity. What were you doing 4 months ago? Do you even remember?
I know exactly what I was doing.
I don't think I'll forget.
Well, anyways, the point is the news cycle moves
I know exactly what I was doing 4 months ago.
so quickly that people are inundated with new things.
But the
4 or
picture's
5
gonna be
things.
in text
Hold on.
box. Let him finish.
Hold on.
Let him finish.
4 or 5 things are going to happen between now and then that overshadow this. And the saddest thing that I'll say in conclusion is we're hard into gun violence. This really wasn't that big of a deal in the end. Sadly, I hate to say it, but a guy dying in the crowd, 2 people critically injured, and ex-president of the United States nicked in the ear by a bullet should be a big deal. But gun violence is so prevalent in America that people are going to shrug this off. Watch in 2 weeks. No.
I mean, Alex is shaking his head at him, but I don't know that anything he's saying is necessarily incorrect. I saw a video shared of the Trump assassination recently on X or something like that, and so many of the comments underneath it were like, whoa, I completely forgot this happened. And it was just, how long ago? It was the day before this was filmed, so the 13th of July? So... yeah, people forget quick, and that we've been talking about this on this channel, the salaciousness of the news cycle and how the threshold for, excitement or interest in any sort of news story is so high now that things like this don't even really do much. We had a few days of just wall-to-wall coverage that this happened, and people saying that it really opened their eyes to something and it changed their minds, and hopefully they carry that with them at the ballot box, and that remains. But for a lot of people it won't, because we're just so used to hearing stories like this and just so used to a news cycle that has to flip every other day for anybody to be interested in anything, that it's sort of made for stories like this to go away. And that is something that the media apparatus uses to their advantage. When large things like this happen, they use other bits of news to overshadow it, or they just really remind themselves, oh, well, this will be gone in a week or so, and we won't have to worry about that. And for a lot of Americans, that will be true. Now, if you're really interested in politics and you're constantly keeping tabs on things, it might not be true for you. But for the average person, I think a lot of this is just a drop in the bucket as far as the news stories that they get on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, there was a giant, massive story since the assassination of Biden dropping out and Kamala becoming the next nominee that could clearly be a reason for people forgetting what had happened or it being less of a presence in their mind. But there's also the fact that shortly after the assassination attempt happened, there was a concerted effort on the part of the media to not use the photo in question. And as we're seeing on X this week, apparently Google has changed the results where you type in President Trump assassination and it won't auto-complete it for you. Facebook just admitted that they have been censoring that image and by accident somehow. And people are asking, well, why does the accidents always seem to happen in one direction? So there's certainly, and then there's also, the media narratives and such, and the preference for certain stories and wanting to put certain things out there and minimize the impact of something like the assassination attempts. So all those factors, I think, certainly play in as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Nobody will be talking about this.
Do you think gang violence in Chicago is the same as the former president of the United States almost being murdered?
Can you repeat that?
It's not the same, but they're not wholly unrelated.
You're saying that shootings happen all the time, so it's not that big of a deal. Do you think that the common gun violence that we see in this country, right, shootings happening in inner cities, is the same or equivalent to the former president almost being assassinated?
No, but
it is not the same. It is not equivalent. But if you're priming the citizens in your nation with story after story of gun violence, if they're living in cities where gun violence is pretty much normal, which for a lot of people that is the case, a president getting shot at or an assassination attempt, yes, would be a crazier story than the average everyday gun violence that you're hearing about. But if you are primed to be desensitized to the idea of gun violence, it's not as pivotal or impactful of a story as it would be. And I think that's just a fact. And we can concede that ground in this argument and say that that's the case, while still holding steadfast in our belief that an assassination attempt is a pretty pivotal moment in history and needs to be discussed and will sway public opinion toward support of Donald Trump.
I think the shock of gun violence is what is similar, and people have become hardened to it.
And the way that the media treats the shooter, I mean, it's the same narrative that everybody's trying to build off of. What kind of gun was he using? He was 20 years old. He went to school. He was a loner. Like, everybody submits all these tips saying they knew him. That, like, it's getting the same treatment as any other mass shooting.
Wait, really quick. I have a really quick question.
I want him to, because he hasn't asked a question.
I just want to say, what's your name again?
Guy.
Guy. That's a good name, Guy.
Thank you.
You said people are going to forget about this, but you know what memes are, right?
Sure.
You don't think Donald Trump raising his fist, being shot, will be a meme that lives longer than all of us combined?
No.
I mean, the fact that it's being used as a meme sort of validates their point more than it validates yours. If somebody is taking a moment like that, which should be a super, visceral moment for America, a former president nearly being assassinated, and they immediately jump to memeing it, it's actually proving their point that we are desensitized to gun violence. If you can immediately jump to a joke and a meme and share it, and it becomes something that maybe, withstands the test of time, but still, if a meme is your first reaction, you're probably not as sensitive to gun violence as you should be when it happens. So I think it's just a general place that we're all in as a society where this is not as impactful as it should be. It's just a fact.
What happened to his mugshot? That's still around.
What do you
don't think that'll be? Wait, you don't think that'll?
I don't think it was that iconic of a moment. I think you guys are blowing it a little out of proportion.
That's fine.
So what happened with Reagan?
What do you two think about your guy on your side here saying that he hopes something happens?
I would condemn
disagree.
that, yeah.
Good for you guys. That's the
good,
moral.
'cause
By the way, he's not saying he hopes. He says he has it coming to him, but based on...
No, he
Ah,
said he
don't
wants
roll
something
back
to
to
happen.
back.
So
Can you clarify it?
I would actually like you to, can you
You
clarify
better
what
clarify
you
it,
meant
dude.
by that?
Yeah, you're gonna have a knock at your door. You better clarify. That's gnarly.
There's some points where all of this is going to start boiling over, right? There are people on my side that get very violent, that get very vitriolic with their comments, right? I went to UCLA, and I'm seeing that we have a lot of students who get very in their minds about their politics, about wanting to protect Gaza, about wanting to make sure that their voices are heard from the left in the Democratic Party. The same thing happens with you guys, though. So we have extremists on both sides that are going to come at some point.
That's not the same.
Boil it over.
That's not has nothing to do with it. You said you want something to happen.
Because I want this shit to be over.
But
Wait, can I make a quick comment?
Politics. Why would you wish death on him? He doesn't wish death.
I never wish death on him.
You said you hope something
You
happens.
hope something happens.
But what is that something? I hope that there's some sort of political.
I think he knew the insinuation at the initial point of saying it, and now he's backtracking because of the response that he's getting and because he knows he's been pigeonholed into a certain space because of what he said at the outset. So now he's going to backtrack as much as he can, but even in his backtracking, he's sort of alluding to the fact that he wants violence to happen. He's saying this is going to all sort of boil over and violence is going to take place, and I want something to happen. Okay.
Will boil over, right? We're edging to a point where there's going to be some kind of civil war. There's going to be some kind of like interstate violence that's happening.
All right,
so you're hoping for violence.
Inciting violence.
Robert E. Lee over here.
I hope that we break the point. I hope that we break the dam where we don't have to keep fighting about policies and whether or not we have conspiracy theorists in government. I hope that we get to the point where we're done with all of it and we can get through this antebellum era.
Does the fact that the two people on your side, reflected?
Okay. He's trying to backtrack, but he says, I want to get through this antebellum era that we're in. For those of you that don't know, antebellum means pre-war, before the war. I want to get through this antebellum period that we're in, which means you want you want the war to get through so that you can, I guess, get on the other side of it. I don't know that makes it any better a statement than what he said at the outset of, I hope something happens, when, her and him were giggling it up, and chopping it up, kikiing it up, talking about the assassination attempt on Trump.
And said that that's going too far. Does that make you reflect on your words and think that maybe you took it too far?
No.
As a Republican, in my life, I talk to thousands of people a day. I have never heard a Republican ever say they want Biden to die, okay?
I have.
I have. Okay.
Oh my
Hey, whoa.
gosh,
This is my opinion, okay? It's not your opinion. That's
my opinion.
Fine, I'm sharing right now. I'm sure you have, and I'm sure that's normal, and I guarantee right now Republicans have said that. Guaranteed, okay? I talk to thousands of people a day. All my friends are Republicans. I've never heard a Republican I know personally wish death or harm against Biden. We simply want him to not be president anymore, okay? Today I woke up, let's just talk about the past 8 years. everyone on the left wishes death upon Trump.
That's
or
not
harm.
true.
Well, and let me.
Never, I say this, never say always, never say never, never say everyone. If you jump into hyperbolic statements, you are just bound to get somebody to retort back and say that's not true. And it's because that would be untrue. You can't say everyone on the left wants Donald Trump to die, because then you've just immediately jumped to an irrational argument.
I just want to
That
make
is
this quick
not
point.
true.
And I don't like Biden at all, but I felt very sad when he fell off his bicycle.
Yeah, I feel bad for him. It's elder abuse.
Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
I'm just telling you, I felt sad for our country.
How
I was
many
like, look at this
Republicans
old man
actively
falling
feel
off.
bad
Yeah,
for
we
Biden?
all
Yeah,
feel
I
bad.
feel bad.
It's
When
literally
I-
elder abuse.
When I watch it,
Well, all right, I'll grant you that one wasn't a non sequitur to get away from the point, but that fair.
When
That
he
one
fell off
rests.
that bicycle, I felt sad. I was like, that's our president. I know, I'm dead serious. If
Can I just say, whatever brand of person Alex Stein is, I don't like it. I don't like it. It's so irritating to listen to. When somebody just can't take something seriously or just have a normal conversation, I just don't know why you'd be there to have this discussion. The show is literally called Middle Ground, and you've invited somebody who I think is very much incapable, at least at this point in their life, in achieving that goal. So we should wait for a little bit of personal growth in the Alex Stein department before he comes back to a Jubilee Middle Ground, because he's just literally antithetical to the purpose of the show.
I felt shot and he walks towards
Aren't you impressed he's riding a bike at 80 years old? And
Okay.
he's not riding it. Wait, time out.
Okay,
He's not
okay.
riding
No,
it. He's
hold on.
falling over on it. That's
All
it.
right.
If he was riding
We
it,
got
that
to the
would've been cool.
bicycles.
He fell over on it.
That's why I know we're going to
That's
wrap
the
up this
opposite
problem.
of riding.
All right, we're wrapping up this problem because we got to bicycle. A convicted felon should not become president. Will the agreeers please step forward?
Tough one. A convicted felon should not become president. I don't think it should be some sort of like hard and fast rule on that, especially with the weaponization of the justice system against Donald Trump in this case. I think as a general rule, if I was going to think about who I'd prefer to be president, convicted felon would not be on my priority list. But with where we've gone, again, with the weaponization of the justice system, where they've got him on these 34 counts that he's now been convicted of, they went and took it upon themselves to change one from a misdemeanor to a felony in order to bring him down. Clearly, there's something nefarious going on here. And in the case that he has now become a convicted felon, I guess I support a convicted felon becoming president because of what you've done and how you've utilized the justice system in this way. It also must be pointed out here, and that convicted felons can't even vote in the United States, which I think if you're a convicted felon, you should be able to vote. I'll go ahead and put that out. I don't know if that's a hot take or an irrational opinion in any way, shape, or form, but if you've been convicted of a felony, you've served your time, and you did the time for the crime that you committed, I don't know that you should be held out of the process of being able to vocalize your opinion in this country for who should be representing you in your communities. And it doesn't leave a lot of space for people to grow and rehabilitate if they no longer have a voice. So there's a lot of things in regard to convicted felons going on in this country and things they can and cannot do. And it's interesting that we now have this debate as to whether or not a convicted felon should be able to be president, but it's largely because they utilize the justice system against him.
Right. I don't have a super strong opinion on this. And I think, like you say, it is very muddied by what's happened with the weaponization of the justice system in this case. But we asked you guys whether a convicted felon should become president. 42% of you agree and that he should not, and 58% do not agree. So
interesting. So good little split in the audience.
12 strangers came off the street, New York City, came together and ruled unanimously, looking at the facts, being as honest as they can be, that this guy was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think we have so many qualified people to be president of the United States that we don't have to have somebody who has that sort of record. And
one question I've asked myself since the outset of like all the Trump trials and the witch hunts and all this stuff, even if you don't view them as witch hunts and you truly think like Trump is somebody who needs to be gone after in this sense, and yeah, change the misdemeanor to a felony and get him on it. We in the United States have a right to a fair trial through due process. How is it possible for somebody like Donald Trump to even have a fair trial? How could you accurately pick 12 jurors that don't have any sort of bias in going into this case and having to come to a determination on Trump's behalf. I don't think that's necessarily possible, especially with how the media has covered him. So there's, I think, a large argument to be made that because of all the character assassination attempts on Donald Trump throughout his presidency and the run and all this different stuff, that you couldn't have possibly picked a fair jury to take in this case and make a judgment. And that's always something that I've thought about. Even if you hated Donald Trump, how is it possible to get, a fair trial for that? Y'all let me know what the process is to pick jurors for that case, because I know I couldn't do it.
And also, he might be in prison. People find that laughable, but those are the same people who thought he would never be indicted, same people who thought they would never raid his home. So I think America can do better.
Oh, I think we got a $50 super chat.
Yeah, I'll read that real quick. This is from Stanley Butler, who says, what felony did the jury unanimously convict? And name one other person ever charged with that felony. Can't special charge just for Trump. It's a fake felony.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, I think. But we're going to run with the fact that he was convicted on this. Just all the moving around. A literal kangaroo court in this case. And now we're having a debate on whether or not a convicted felon should be president when you created the issue in the first place.
I think as an abstract rule, there's no reason to back somebody who is a felon, even if we don't think they deserved it, to be president. There are hundreds of millions of us. We're the richest, most diverse nation in the history of the world. We have more experience with democracy than any other existing democracy. There's just no need for that. And I think what I suspect our friends on the other side are going to come and suggest is that, it's not fair to him. He's being unjustly persecuted and all that jazz. If a Democrat that I thought was great, were unjustly, in my view, persecuted, found guilty, I would also be someone who stood up and said, I don't care if I thought you didn't do it. You're a felon now.
Well, that's just words. I mean, who's to say whether or not that's true?
We have other people. There are so many people on the Republican side who are talented and capable and would be great presidents. There's no reason to stick to the one who, has a loyal but minority of the population fan base that is hardcore about him, when, there are some really incredible Republicans that would be great presidents. And I think like Nikki Haley, for instance, would be a great president by comparison.
No.
Warhawk Nikki Haley would be a fantastic president. And that's crazy to me to hear it from a Democrat saying this. You have Donald Trump on one hand, who was a no-war president, who's talking about, on day one, I want to get so many of these just foreign issues resolved. Meanwhile, Nikki Haley is like, Israel is America. And like, if an attack on Israel is an attack on America, and we need to go and like take control of all these oil reserves. And she actually went and signed her name on an Israeli rocket that was going to be sent off. And you think Nikki Haley is a better person to be president than Donald Trump. What basis do you have for that argument? That's what I really want to hear. What an out of left field comment. That's wild.
By comparison. By comparison,
yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say, too. I think that there's a lot better classical Republicans that much better politicians than Trump. Trump is not a politician by any means. So there's a lot more qualifying people in the GOP that should, take over that position. We should not have a felon be able to run for president. It's kind of embarrassing, actually.
Like I miss the McCains. I miss the Romneys. Like good-natured,
good classical
people.
Republicans.
It's not even classical, because at this point it was just, that's what Republicans were. That's what they are supposed to be. At this point, the GOP has been overtaken by a lot of fascist rhetoric.
Yes.
And it dilutes every single message that they have for making an effective president. The question is whether or not they would have agreed if Trump wasn't a felon right now. If there was no criminal prosecution, if there was no case about hush money or whatever, and there was no chance of him becoming a felon, they probably would still come up here and agree.
Mm-hmm. I have to...
That's not necessarily an argument. If you've weaponized the justice system against somebody and created a felony for them in a case where people would normally be against convicted felons being president, it further substantiates their argument a little bit, The fact that they have to especially hold back for things that have been done and weaponized against this particular president is a whole different side of the argument.
I'm reminded of Al Franken, who was one of the most popular Democratic senators when he was in office. He was one of the best messengers for the Democratic Party, and widely considered a talented, capable, and accomplished senator. But decades prior, he did some embarrassing things, and the Democrats pushed him out of the Senate. We have, I mean, honestly, Democrats, we eat our own all the time. It's a problem we have, but we do have a record of removing people who have a problematic reputation from office. It's a thing that we do.
Taylor loves that.
Well, okay, first comes to mind is Bill Clinton, which had his whole scandal, but that's just like a personal moral thing. We don't care about that anymore, surely, so whatever. But you also have Joe Biden had his case of the mishandling of classified documents dismissed on the basis that he was a forgetful old man that wasn't fit to face prosecution, even though he's still fit to be president of the United States, which makes no sense. And then you also have Hillary Clinton, who James Comey, the FBI director at the time, said they did find that she had committed crimes, or that there was evidence that she had committed crimes, and yet they chose not to charge her with anything because reasons. And that also had to do with classified documents or emails. So you don't have a history of removing people that have questionable moral or, let's say, legal issues. And it's just, facially untrue.
Right. I'm like wondering, I would like him to substantiate that. What is he even talking about? Getting rid of people. Maybe he's talking about like the sort of cancel culture element that exists on the left of like getting rid of problematic people. But I don't know. I guess not when the problems are legal, you don't.
At the end of the day, I think there's a big difference between we think this person is a criminal, but they're not convicted, versus this person's a convicted criminal. Those are not the same thing, and there's a false equivalence, I think, awaiting us in the wings on this.
It's not the same thing if the criminal has been caught, is what he just said, which is just, what? Arguably, it's worse if you're like in power, you are a criminal and you haven't been caught, because that means you are committing another crime, which is like evading the actual criminal justice system. I don't know.
I'm gonna bring on the disagreeers.
Can I go first so I can just be done?
Sure.
Sure. My ex used to say that to me.
Yeah, literally. First of all, you said that you actually potentially were wrong and apologized about some things, so amazing. I wish people I used to be friends with would just say, hey, like, Emily, maybe you were right about a couple things, and I would take them back with loving open arms, because it's like, I understand. Okay? The irony of being like, we're the moral party after you are all excited. You two specifically are very excited about assassination is just the funniest thing in the world to me. Nikki Haley is a Democrat. We all know that. That's probably why you guys are more inclined to maybe like her.
She cheated on her husband.
And other than that, it is
supposedly.
Other than that, it is funny to sit here and be like, I miss the good old politicians like, the Clintons, who everyone just ends up dead around them. Obama, who committed many war crimes and loved, carpet bombing children. And, when he's not getting blown in the White House, all these really great people we used to have in office. Of course, I think there's a complete double standard.
Nobody said any of what you just said.
It is true. Nobody said any of what she just said. She just came up with her own examples there, but I guess she was anticipating that's what they'd say.
Something on the prompt, specifically about the
Well, first of all, you
convicted felons should our
guys
president.
are obviously very racist for saying that, because 1/3 of all black African-American men have a felony conviction. So
are we, is it okay for people to throw out the racist word in this debate? Is that,
that's not
are we
racist.
considering that?
You're the racist because you want 1/3 of black people not eligible.
I would never accuse you of being racist, my friend.
They could just turn around at him and say, you're the racist for associating convicted felons with black people. So why are we even talking about this right now? Is Alex there for comedic effect? Because if so, it's not working. Nobody's laughing.
Friend?
Well, then why are you so against people having a felony? America's built Let me just say this. America's built on second chances. A lot of people make mistakes.
Sure.
So a person, whether they get arrested or not, I want to live in a world where we give second chances. So you say somebody gets arrested and they should be negated from having any public office.
No.
I think that's what you said.
I would love to go into detail.
But
I would love to go into detail.
Let's try and avoid an attacking.
I'm not trying to personally
right?
attack.
No, you already did. You called us racist.
Well, I'm saying that, I guess.
As a rhetorical flourish, but it's too much, and you need to be a little more respectful of other people.
Okay, but still, you might still be racist. I don't know you that well. My point is, you're trying to exclude a big population of the country that are African Americans from running for office, and I think that's, a disrespect.
Well, neither. Well, all right.
Well, here's why I don't think it's disqualifying. I think it would be one thing if Donald Trump was convicted convicted of, say, taking foreign bribes and benefiting from foreign countries as a result of his office. This is more or less...
We got a $50 super chat. We're going to pause and read that.
All right, this is Britt Cormier who says, at least Trump won a primary. Which primary has Harris won? How many votes did she get? Can anyone explain how the Dems keep circumventing the primary process but still say we need to protect democracy?
And Britt, you ate him up. You ate him up, okay? You're onto something there. How does that happen? And why aren't more Democrats mad about it? Actually, we did a video about Black Lives Matter calling this out and saying, you know what, we deserve to go through some kind of primary process to pick the candidate that's going to represent our side. And I agree with them on that. Don't think it should be a virtual one. Y'all gotta find a way to make y'all's in person and filmed and televised for us to see exactly what you're doing. But yeah, I agree that you're onto something, Britt.
Business improprieties, and he was convicted on 34 counts. Can any of you list 4 of those convictions and articulate specifically why those charges disqualify a man from being an effective leader?
Yes. Falsifying business records.
To commit a campaign violation and hide information from the American people voting for him in 2016.
No, what's interesting is you're bringing that up. He was also the inciting the riot at January 6th, right?
He didn't.
You guys, yes, you did. Yes, you did. And you guys are saying you don't support political violence because of what just happened at Trump's rally, right? You guys are attacking us because you guys are attacking us because we think, yeah, it's a tragedy what happened at his rally recently, but you guys don't say anything about what happened on January 6th, and you guys think that's okay. And you guys aren't recognizing that Trump did at all.
I always think like when everybody's coming in with this very like up energy there, they need to get their point and they need to go. I'm just thinking, what is your goal in this conversation? This could be a lot calmer than what we're achieving here. And in fact, what should make it even more calmer is that like none of what anybody says here, for the most part, I think is going to change anybody's opinion. So that should sort of alleviate some of the anxiousness that you feel to sort of like bite down and jump on the things that they're saying. You could be way chill and just be like, here's my perspective. And knowing that it's not going to change yours, here's what I have to say. But instead it's like jokes and gotcha moments and jump on this and jump on that, and it gets nowhere. And that seems to be the majority of the comments underneath this Jubilee video of like, this is not actually a debate. This is just 4 people screaming at one another, which I guess makes for good television, but my goodness, is it irritating.
Well, what about Paul Pelosi? I'm sure, Alex, you were quite sympathetic when he was almost killed, right?
I thought it was funny that he was...
Oh, you thought it was funny that he was almost killed in political violence.
Wait, 1 second.
Bludgeoned with a hammer by an
Emily,
stop.
You were
wasn't almost killed.
I have a question.
No, I don't want
you just made a claim. You just made a claim that we said nothing about political violence.
If we're all over talking, no one's going to be able to hear anything.
That was one of Trump's convictions, right or wrong.
You made a claim that we said that was okay.
A riot.
When did somebody say that?
Because you are attacking us. Because yes, you did. You guys attacked us. You're saying that we want Trump to be assassinated.
You said it yourself.
No, we did not. We can play back. We play back the tape because we didn't explicitly say that.
She's smiling through because she can't like with the body language, she can't accurately defend that is not what she said. So she's smiling. She knows it's what she said, and it's coming through in all of her body language.
No, we did not explicitly say that.
You said you wanted something to happen.
We did not explicitly say that. She felt the need to qualify that statement.
Yeah.
And then
that doesn't mean I want him to die.
And they should not have said that the attack on Paul Pelosi was funny, even given the circumstances. He was hit in the head with a hammer, which is crazy. But I don't know the ins and outs of that whole thing that happened because it was a guy in his underwear and Paul Pelosi was also in his underwear. And I don't know who was there and why they were there, but it looked a little strange. It was a strange little setup.
It wasn't political violence, at least.
Yes, it wasn't political violence at the very least, so.
Because it's so vague, you could include an attack
That could be me just saying, I want him to lose. I don't want him to be in office.
Okay, obviously people can go back into the video, but let's stick on to the prompt right now, specifically about should a convicted felon be able to become president? Yeah. You haven't spoken. Did you want to say something on that?
Go for it, yeah. So I don't think it's justifiable. Again, when they say he incited violence, I will wait for one person to tell me how he incited violence. When he said peacefully in protest, peacefully and patriotically, that is complete peace. He's asking for peace. And when he said, anyone who supports me, stop. Don't riot. Don't march. Don't trash the Capitol. He said that on his Twitter. He put it out. for all his supporters to see.
He did indeed.
Three hours
So
after.
honestly, I think, and that was not 3 hours. And I think if someone supports him and they did that, they're not a supporter because he's the one advocating against it. And I have never, and you guys can say you have or whatever, I have never met a single person who agrees with me and truly supports him that agreed with January 6th. Not one.
Wait, so then why does he want to start pardoning people that were convicted of being at January 6th? And
because it was an inside job. They were let in. I mean, they were
let in. What's your
because I have
talks with buttons that had.
I have friends who are in jail right now.
Bo,
it's
calm
an
down.
inside job, but he wants to pardon them.
Did you guys
so
not
he's pardoning people that he would be against as a false flag attempt for it being an inside job?
Oh, I think Homeboy is confused here. What they're saying is that people showed up at the Capitol, right? They did the whole march. Trump told them to be peaceful. Some are advocating that there were feds within the crowd. Also, that the Capitol Police let people into the Capitol. You can actually watch videos. Tucker Carlson put these videos out to the public. You can watch Capitol Police leading people into the Capitol. You can watch them giving them tours of the different rooms in the Capitol. So there's a lot of evidence to substantiate that there was some sort of inside work facilitating this happening. That doesn't mean that the citizens who were arrested for being at January 6th are also in on the inside job, okay? It means that their actions were facilitated by people of authority who wanted January 6th to take place, which is exactly why they would be granted a pardon, because they are effectively political prisoners at this point. Do you guys really think that people who are at January 6th should still be in prison right now? There are ones that are still in prison right now. That is crazy to me, especially given everything that happened in 2020 during those BLM George Floyd riots, where we have people who never saw a day in jail, never had their hands behind their back for the things that they did, actual lives taken during the 2020 summer of mostly peaceful protests. And those people have not been put in prison. So explain that.
Well, Donald Trump requested more. He requested backup and security, and Nancy Pelosi denied it.
That is
absolutely false.
She admits Pelosi admits that on tape.
Yeah, it's all
It's because my mom.
How is Pelosi in charge of security at the Capitol? Shouldn't Mitch McConnell be in charge? Like, what doesn't make sense?
It's because my mom was put on a terrorist watch list for being there and doing her job. She's a porter. She was there doing her job, and she was put on a terrorist watch list. Now, why tell me how it's justified.
So did your mom enter the Capitol?
My mom didn't go within 2,000 feet of the Capitol.
So just so I'm clear, your mother is a journalist with an existing publication, or what does that mean?
She does. She works for Real America's Voice.
So she was charged with trespassing, and she didn't go within 2,000 feet?
No.
Sounds like
those charges are going to be dropped.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about all the people that?
So the friends that I have.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Also, who are currently in jail right now, who had January 6th and didn't go in the Capitol.
They didn't
and
go
they're
to the
put in
Capitol
jail.
either.
They did.
What did they do? What are they
Nothing.
charged with?
I'd love to know.
You have no idea.
So they don't know.
Do you think that,
obstruct
Juan,
proceeding?
I have a quick question. Do you think the justice system is fair 100%?
He should have an answer for that, for what they're charged with. Now we don't know, so you should clear that up.
Of the time?
No, it never has.
Do you think that there can be major failures in the justice system?
Of course.
Do you think
Is it possible, Juan? Is it possible? Is it in the realm of possibilities that Donald Trump's political opponents weaponize the justice system against him? Is that a possibility?
No. Let me say.
Short answer, no.
It was
Short
until
answer, no.
it was.
So no.
Hold on.
Why is that not possible?
Okay, is it possible that they could? Sure. Is it possible that his convictions so far and the other things he's charged with are that? No. I'm sorry.
Why is that impossible?
Because it's verifiably, provably.
Well, everything is possible. And also, the left is a side that typically advocates for a lot of criminal justice reform and makes the argument that the criminal justice system has been weaponized against the American people for quite some time, specifically people of color. So to sort of throw that out as an argument and say that it's not possible that a mistake has been made, it's not possible that the justice system has been weaponized, would be antithetical to a lot of the things that the left runs on in regard to criminal justice reform. So if it's possible with other people, it's probably possible with one of the most vitriolic characters in American history, that being Donald Trump. So and I don't mean that he's particularly vitriolic. I think he induces vitriol in people.
Things that he did. I mean, it would be, look, if I murdered somebody and he murdered somebody, but people at the Justice Department hate me and not him, and they prosecute me and not him, I still murdered. It doesn't matter, it doesn't...
So the felon conviction doesn't matter, is what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it doesn't. It's not about whether it was... We can try and frame his conviction as some kind of inconsistent, unfair prosecution. But the fact is he did do it.
Well, you just said, so that proves the point that the conviction status doesn't matter. What you did matters.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what you're
being
saying.
convicted of it matters, yes.
Yeah, once you're
Didn't you
convicted,
just say that it doesn't matter if you're convicted or not, you still did?
No, what I'm saying is if I were convicted and he also did the same thing but wasn't, I'm still guilty. I still deserve to be convicted. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna skip to the next prompt. I think we got everybody's viewpoint on that one, and we can make some headway in another direction. Of course, we're gonna skip their ads. Okay.
On this episode. Now, let's get into it.
If Trump is elected, I fear that the country will move too far right. Will the agreeers please step forward?
No, of course I'm not worried that the country's gonna go too far right. In a lot of ways, we can't go far enough. I'm kidding. I'm not a very far right individual myself, but yeah, just with the way our system is set up, it is nearly impossible to get so much done in either direction. So a lot of these things are just like ideas that we're combating and stuff. But, you know, in many ways, we've gone pretty far left, at least in ideology. But I don't know that there will be a too far right move in the other direction. In fact, I think the conservative party or the Republican Party has become more and more progressive as time goes on. And as you look at it, if anything, the left is moving very, very far left, and conservatives and centrist people are staying right where they always were and advocating that we stay right where we always were. But y'all guys keep moving in the other direction.
Yeah, and arguably, I mean, Trump's platform is the most moderate platform that any Republican candidate has ever had. If you look at his stance on gay marriage, he didn't define it as between a man and a woman on his official platform. And on abortion, he's also softened and allowed the exceptions for rape and incest. So those two of the major issues that Democrats typically point to as being like this far right, you know, totalitarianism that's going to be rained down upon us if Trump gets elected, are literally not even in his platform. I have seen though, like, and I see James Lindsay talking about this, like, with the assassination and all the momentum, the Biden dropout, with all the momentum that Republicans have had or the right has had, you've seen some people pop up on the right. There is this vein of would-be authoritarians on the right who do want to use the power of government to impose, you know, traditional values on society through like legal means, and they mandate the Bible being taught in schools and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in that sense, there is a little bit of concern on my part, even as a Christian conservative. I guess I'm not a registered Republican, but you know, someone who's right leaning and Republican sympathetic, that yeah, there is a little bit of concern on my part there. But in just how the question's being posed, I think in reality, the actual platform positions that Trump is espousing are relatively moderate.
Right. And I don't know, the people who believe in those types of things, I don't know how much power they have, like how much sway they would have. I think they would be met with so much backlash for ideas like that, even from their own party, that I just don't know how far they'd be able to get. But yeah, it's a very real thing that's popping up now. As things like move and the pendulum swings, it's going to swing back in the other direction, and you're going to get people who are extreme on the other end of whatever it is that you're pushing.
All right, 2025, Project 2025, like this is a clear agenda that's been outlined by people that are involved in the Trump administration.
Whose agenda is it? It's not Trump's agenda, so why are we even talking about it?
And defunding the Department of Justice, dismantling the Department of Housing and Urban Development, getting rid of the Department of Commerce, getting rid of NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, making sure that you have Schedule F, so you know every single civil service employee becomes a political appointee. That removes a lot of the non-biases that are within the government as an institution to keep it functioning. And there's so much hypocrisy that goes into that. You know, they want to bring back impoundment, which makes it so that the Office of Management and Budget can just completely obliterate any congressional authorization or appropriation.
I'm falling asleep because this has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Make sure that the president has say over how the budget is spent, when that is not the president's job. They have an Office of Management and Budget to make sure that the money gets where it needs to. And impoundment was made illegal by Congress in 1974 when Nixon tried it. They want to bring that back and make it a, you know, under a Republican Congress and with a Republican president, make it law of the land. And it's so hypocritical seeing them cite Federalist number 47 and say, tyranny happens when the job of the executive, the legislative, and the judicial is all under one branch. That's why we want to make sure that the legislative doesn't have access to appropriations, which is their constitutional mandate.
That's true.
You
I
have
just
something you want to say?
tyranny happens when you have a giant, bloated, unelected bureaucracy dictating policies for things that they were not elected and the American people had absolutely no say in. And so a lot of what he's saying, it sounds like a lot of technical mumbo jumbo that bureaucrats love in order to justify having unelected positions that they can use to deprive Americans of their rights and freedoms.
Dude, when they just like hired how many different IRS agents, it was like over 80,000 IRS agents. The FBI has expanded, the CIA has expanded, and actually Vivek Ramaswamy made this a big talking point on his campaign trail of wanting to gut bureaucracy and really cut out a lot of these middlemen that find their way into the American citizen's life, household, their just communities. And I 100% agree with that. Now, when we talk to like switching them for political appointees and making sure that your party has powers over all these different agencies, that's a whole different discussion. But gutting bureaucracy, I'm all for that. Okay. And I must point out, let's go ahead and pull up this Donald Trump statement real quick. Here's Donald Trump. I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who is behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Okay, so there you go. Don't know why we're talking about this in a Trump versus, the Dems debate.
In my lifetime, the Supreme Court made it illegal for two people of the same gender to be arrested for having sex in the privacy of their home. So when I see things in Project 2025 that talk explicitly about emphasizing nuclear families with one mother and one father, when I see, actually it goes into great detail about the low-key covert ways of disempowering, like dismantling the rights and privileges that LGBTQ people have fought for the last 30 years.
What rights? Please go on.
I find that really scary, and it also goes into great detail about how to limit, curtail, and ultimately do away with abortion, access to birth control. My grandma was a feminist, and I'm kind of glad she didn't make it this far, because she would be petrified at what. It's totally cool for women, say, to choose to live a life by conservative values. It's unacceptable to impose conservative values on women. And the same is true for LGBTQ people. The same is true for all of us. And there's no version of reality where a second Trump administration does not do all of those things. There's
no version of reality where a second Trump administration does not do all those things, even though he says, I have no plans of doing any of the things. I'm not associated with them whatsoever. There's no reality in which that does not happen. Okay.
Also, he'd be seemingly fine with the imposition of LGBTQ values on the country and in schools and such,
right,
when he decries the reverse. But we got another $50 super chat from Bria Cormier, who says, as someone who lived through the 80s, I can tell you that there is an authoritarian right that I hate just as much as the authoritarian left.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think
probably referring to the moral majority, Jerry Falwell days. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like for every side, there is this sort of group that wants to impose those values on other people and thinks that they should be the legal standard, the government standard, and that's not the way to go about things. Whether you like it or not, you can't impose your values onto other people.
His point, 80% of the people who worked on Project 2025 are former appointees. So, I hope we're not going to disagree in a minute about whether or not Project 2025 is the thing, because it is. And I am not a dramatic person. I'd like to be pretty level-headed, but I am genuinely, I feel like my safety could be compromised to the extent that I have to leave as a queer person if he wins and is able to do what he has plainly in his.
Like, what do you have to substantiate that the safety? You actually have a fear for your life if Donald Trump becomes president. What do you have during his last term that took place that substantiates you having fear for your life because you're a queer person? This is like peak victimology culture of, because of this identity, I feel like I'm a perpetual victim depending on who's in power, I guess. And there's really nothing to back up that claim. That's a wild one.
It reminds me of that. What was that law that they passed in Florida that was like, you can't dance sexually in public or something? And they're like, they're targeting trans people. It's like, let's have a little nuance, guys. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that is wild.
Movement had plainly promised to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what these guys have said. I think Roe v. Wade being overturned is a shock to everybody, and there's more of that in store for us if Donald Trump wins. I don't think it's the end of America as we know it or any sort of hyperbolic thing like that. And I am concerned about certain people because as a straight white guy, I'm probably not going to be impacted by it. But I worry about community, and I worry about these migrants who've come here just looking for another chance. And so I worry our country will.
Just looking for another chance. Those migrants that come into the country. Just looking for another chance. That guy who murdered Laken Riley. Yeah, he was just coming to the land of opportunity to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Yeah. And again, not all migrants. A lot of them, though.
Take on some serious damage if Donald Trump gets back in there.
It's really scary thinking about what it can do for women. And I'm in a position that because Roe v. Wade was overturned recently, and I live in Texas, so having, like, if I were to get pregnant and have a baby and need to have an abortion, if I choose to do so, I'm not able to do that, and they want to push those laws and restrictions on women's bodies even more. It's kind of terrifying to think about.
I know abortion's going to be a big issue for them, and I know a lot of people on the right are saying, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't be so staunch on abortion. And I do think if the right was truly going to be smart and strategic in this next election, they wouldn't take a super strong stance on abortion, especially now that it's left up to the states in the current state of anything, anyways. But my goodness, there's ways not to avoid abortion that have nothing to do with Roe v. Wade. I'm just want to say that.
All right, so let's bring on the disagreeers.
One, I'd love to, if we could stop the pity pretend party. Trump is not an anti-LGBTQ president by any means. I mean, this is a man, Rick, are you guys gonna ignore Rick Grinnell? He made an ambassador. Are you guys gonna ignore the log cabin Republicans hosting events that I've been at Mar-a-Lago? Again, I'm very traditional.
Log cabin Republicans, for those of you who don't know, is an LGBTQ Republican group specifically for, I think, gay men.
Personally, a lot of things in Project 2025 I would agree with, but Trump does not, and that's why he's publicly denounced it. I don't know why everyone's acting like these are all his policies. This is all the things he's gonna implement. It's not even close. And I don't know why you guys are just pretending like it is. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'd love to know why.
Do you want to speak to the prompt specifically about the country moving too far to the right if he's elected? You don't feel?
Well, he did speak to the prompt specifically. He said, I don't know why you guys think it's going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I don't. I would love to see us getting, because I think like the family unit is like the most broken thing in America right now. I'd love to see the family unit be fixed and a lot of traditional values be reestablished. And I think we could have America to a much more traditional state where we were thriving, and the Judeo-Christian values that our country was founded upon.
How do you do that? You get rid of gay people?
I gotta say, there's no version of history in America where people like me have thrived, so I would hate to go back.
He said there's no version of America where people like me thrive, so I would hate to go back. And I guess he's talking about like a back on like queer marriage and things like that, which whatever. Okay, I don't think that's what anybody's saying when they say make America great again. They're talking about things that had Americans flourishing that they want to reinstate here in this country. Doesn't mean they're going to roll back on your marriage, although some Republicans do believe that gay marriage should not be legal. I disagree with those Republicans vehemently, but it's not going to happen. There's literally no move to do it. And Trump has never, ever said this is something that he wants to usher forward in his administration. So I just don't know what the battle is here. And are you not like flourishing and thriving in America now as a human being? Like, we're in the greatest place in human history you could possibly be as a human being. And if you cannot recognize that, even with all the issues that this country is experiencing, then I don't know what to tell you. You are so steeped in victimhood culture that you're not going to see yourself out of it. I'm sorry. You're stuck in the mud.
You got a whole month out of the year. Your flag is flown at the White House. Your LGBTQ people are invited over to the White House. They're given positions. Sam Britton, gay people are given positions all of the time because of their
I gotta say, at first I thought you were kidding.
I am very traditional. I am Catholic. I don't agree with same-sex marriage, but I think it's extremely narcissistic for you to say that you would feel unsafe if a more conservative person got into office.
Yeah, what more do queer people need? I don't understand. If there's queer people listening right now, what more do you guys want? I don't know what else we can give you to make you feel safe in this country. I don't know how much further we can go with anything. You have all the same rights and privileges that everybody else does. So where else are we to go with your rights to make you feel safer? And if anything, you're being pedestalized over other people now for your sexuality. And we're taking sexuality into account when making character judgments about somebody, which makes absolutely no sense. So I just don't know what's next on the docket for you guys.
As somebody who disagrees with your lifestyle, I could not care less about what you do.
I
you
would
go ahead
love-
and go do it,
no.
but nobody is threatening your life. And I have to say, the
that is
country,
not
I'm going to
true.
go ahead and finish.
I apologize.
This country has been, Biden has been an extremely progressive, liberal president. And if Donald Trump got in office, the country would absolutely move right. But it wouldn't move too far right. The Overton window has shifted so far left in the last 4 years that a lot of people that are moderate are now being on the right. I mean, you have people like prominent figures like Joe Rogan, who is a self-proclaimed socialist who voted for Bernie Sanders, now saying that he's voting for Donald Trump. And so I think that is a common thing amongst moderates because it has gotten so far left. And I think being right nowadays just means that you don't want your country overrun with illegal immigrants. You don't want your daughters and sisters raped by people in the bathroom or having trees in their bathrums. And you want a secure border.
I need to respond to this, and I'm really.
You should not say that word. Oh, we don't say words that upset people and make them feel offended. Word police. I can't. The sensitivity culture is just too much for me. Like, can we be real? Can we have a real conversation? Can I just like say what I really want to say? Can I like actually just say the words that come to mind without you trying to police everything that I say at any given moment? And can we just get through it? We're adults. We are actually adults. I think we can get through the word tranny being used in a conversation, whether or not you deem it to be derogatory or not. Hold your opinion and just move on. Have the discussion.
Appreciate being allowed to finish.
And by the way, I want to just clarify.
Are you
the
done?
raping and killing is I'm talking about not transgender. I'm talking about illegal immigrants.
Understood.
Just to clarify.
So I want to be clear. Sexual orientation is not a lifestyle. It's not a choice. It's not optional. It's not choosable.
What? You can't choose who you have sex with?
You can choose who you have sex with, but you cannot choose who you're attracted to. It is what it is.
I don't know about
Sure.
all
Okay.
that.
Could
Do I need to go on my same rant that I do every single time on this one? I'll let them talk.
you please
That's a topic. That's a topic for back on Jubilee another time. We'll do that.
Look.
There's gay men that don't have sex, that don't have gay sex.
Would you please
We're not going to go into that.
choose to be attracted to me right now?
No, because you're.
We're not going to go into that, you guys.
I am.
That is another.
Okay, but I would really like to finish. Look, I understand why you, as someone who has not lived a queer life, would not understand why someone who has would feel really petrified by this moment. And I get it. I realize that it's hard to appreciate other people's experiences when you haven't lived them. And what I resent, to be honest, is that you're not willing to take my word for it. That you seem to think that you know well enough to be able to speak cogently to the experience of people who do feel scared, do feel unsafe. And you know, I appreciate that that there are.
Of course you can, okay? It doesn't invalidate the fact that you feel petrified. It questions whether or not that is what you should be feeling in this moment. And that is what we do as human beings. We take in the experiences of others, we analyze them, and we make judgments of our own based on the things that we're hearing. If we cannot have conversations about the experiences of others, we might as well not have conversations whatsoever. If only I can talk about my experience and what I've lived and only I understand my perspective, then what's the point of really having a conversation? Because we do converse with one another in order to understand other people's perspective. Now, you can say, I think you're not seeing my perspective in the same light as I do, and try to give a little bit of context and reinforce your ideas in a way that makes them understand it more. But we're allowed to analyze the lives of other people and speak to whether or not we think it's reasonable that you are petrified of a Trump presidency, okay? You know, you might be seeing things that we're not seeing, so let's have a discussion about it. But that discussion does involve judgment. Just in the same way that he's making judgments about their mindset and their worldview, the same can be done in your direction.
Are values that you hold that you would like to see upheld further, and I appreciate that too, but I was an adult when I first had access to a conversation where the word values didn't mean I was kind of only sort of allowed in the room. You know, there are people who say things you've just said, and right after that, talk vaguely about how people like me are a threat to children just by being near them. And
I don't believe that.
Well, I appreciate that you.
But no one here has said that.
No one here has said that, but I want to be clear. The reason why people like me are petrified by what you've said is because I personally time and time again, and the vast majority of every queer person I've ever known has lived the experience of a backslide from what you said into something really.
What did I say? Did I disagree?
No, well, one of the things you said was not agreeing with same-sex marriage. That's a thing that's really scary for me. I understand how, as someone who inherently has access to the privilege of being heterosexual, it would not seem like that big of a deal to you, to say. But, you know, LGBTQ people make up less than 10% of the population. Trans people make up a tiny percentage of the population and are among the most vulnerable people in our society. And, you know, I gotta say, on behalf of my friends who are trans and non-binary, I'm offended that you would use the word. But to be clear,
semantics.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
No,
it really isn't. Okay,
no,
hold
it's
on.
not.
Non-binary person here talking.
Yeah, fair. Yes.
You can't.
Non-binary person you're talking. Point of privilege. Point of privilege, please.
Around by just calling people all the time. Just the same way that you can't walk around and I'm gonna walk out here and someday get called just because I look weird. Just because
you don't look that weird. I didn't.
That's sweet.
Okay.
I didn't even think you're non-binary.
Shut the f up about it. It doesn't matter. What you say really matters.
So sensitive. Oh my gosh. Just let people say what they want to say. Oh my gosh. If somebody wants to call me a derogatory term, cool. Like, whatever. They're a loser. That's fine. If you feel that way, you feel that way. I'd much rather you just tell me out in the open and I know that you feel that way than try to police your language to get you to say something that you don't mean or to just not speak at all. Go about your business. If that's the way you feel and you want to say something ignorant like that, then by all means say something ignorant like that and at least we can have a conversation about it. That's the most interesting part of life. It's not interesting to mind control people and just put them under your thumb to where they say and think the things that you want them to think. It's the most boring existence you could possibly lead. But we're so offended and I'm so sensitive and somebody said the word tranny and my day stopped when I heard it. Then that's a you problem. As much as it's the person who said tranny's problem, we can move on from it. Like words, I know people don't want to hear this because they think words are violence and all this. Words are words. And like what's giving the words power is your reaction. It's you going back and forth and saying, well, those words really hurt and they really offended me and I feel really bad that you said the word tranny and you shouldn't be allowed to say that. Okay, you just gave the word so much more power than if you just let it slide. But people can't let it slide because they have to exercise this moral authority over everything. They have to sit on the high horse and let you know that they're sitting up there.
It really matters for affecting people's mental well-being, for affecting people trying to live a better life. People live in this city because it's a lot better to live here than to live in Oklahoma, Iowa, Kansas, because trans people get murdered. Gay people get murdered. I don't care.
Yeah.
Can I?
Aw, a temper tantrum. That's really effective. I've really walked away from this knowing how important it is not to say the word tranny because you threw a temper tantrum when you heard somebody say it and screamed at them, I don't care. It really shows that you are in a real calm temperament about these things. You've really given them a lot of thought when you scream, I don't care, and throw a temper tantrum.
Can I go?
Yeah, let's bring it back to the prompt and
Okay, the prompt was?
The prompt was
far right.
Trump being elected will take the country too far.
All right. So I try to follow politics all around the world. All the comments I see at this point, I would agree. Far right now is just normal. That's what everyone seems to say. Let's try to find a middle ground here. I am people would call me sellout Republican. I try to be a very modern Republican. I didn't like the Republican Party my whole life. Democrats to me had two winning platforms. Abortion, I'm a pro-choice Republican. It's the worst thing you can be, okay? No one gets more hate in this world than I do, trust me. They want me dead. And Trump came out and he was like, I will not support a countrywide ban on abortion. I would leave it up to the states. As someone who's pro-choice across the board, if it was me in charge, I would have every state, the woman gets to choose, okay? Like I said, Republicans hate that. I know, see, there you go. But that's what I believe as a woman. And it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, if they made it state by state, and 90% of people in a state wanted that, I don't agree with that. I would move out of the state. I don't like the government interfering on women's bodies, the same with the vaccine. Second winning platform, Democrats out, so that's gone. He's already endorsed that. They don't have the abortion thing anymore. Second winning platform is Project 2025, right? Okay, he came out, it's already on text, paper, tweet, whatever. He said, I do not endorse this. I am not with them. He actually said, I think a lot of these things are freaking nuts.
He also said, I think a lot of
these
things are okay.
Okay. Within any movement, you're going to have things that you think are okay and things that you think are nuts. Your point?
I think a lot of them are okay too, but let's go.
I don't.
Let her finish.
Okay, he came out, he said, this is not me, I don't endorse this. I think a lot.
I don't. Okay. Which is why you are one citizen who has one vote, and you can go and vocalize that and say that you don't agree, and that's cool. I don't know why you feel the need to exercise this authority over other people.
A lot of this is nutty. So it's this thing where like people keep pulling it back to that. He already said no. By the way, I grew up in LA. He knows me very well and my entire family. I love gay people. All my best friends have been gay. All my friends are gay Republicans now. I want gay people to be able to be married. I think that is perfectly fine. I think love is love. And other than that, I'm just like, I don't get religion involved. It's like, do your thing. I just don't think it's fair that they have like special rights that other people don't have. And now it's shoved down.
Rights.
Okay. You know, our veterans get a day. God forbid you post them. You're like a white supremacist.
They actually get a whole month, by the way.
Yeah.
Gay people get a whole month.
Is it October or May?
And by the way, like I said,
Right, and that month is really shoved in your face like Pride Month is. It's almost as though like gay people during Pride Month have a right to indecent exposure. You can just like go out of your house naked now, and if you're in a metropolitan area, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool. It's Pride Month. So sorry, I'm gonna put the handcuffs back on my belt, and I'm not gonna worry about you anymore. There's a lot going on. Plus, everything that's happening in the education system where we're talking about sexuality to like 5-year-olds, which is just crazy. And when you try to combat that and say maybe we shouldn't have those conversations, you get called a homophobe who's creating something called a Don't Say Gay bill, even though that's not at all what the bill is. So there's a lot of things happening in the realm of the LGBTQ. I don't even know what you want to call it now. All the different campaigns, I guess, in regard to the LGBTQ individuals, community in this country that are now having them exercising privileges over us.
I'm like pissed if vets get a month.
No, we're not. We're just saying you're bringing up how veterans only have one day, but they get a whole month as well. So what's your point?
And it's purely symbolic about anything with
Let's let
Pride
her
Month.
finish. Let's let her go ahead.
And it's just one of those things where I'm literally, it's so funny because I'm like, you guys are like so upset, and I'm like, I literally couldn't be more on your team about literally all these things.
You're not though.
Well,
You just got upset about.
here you have one person that explicitly supports.
You hear them? Even though she has many points in which she agrees with them and that she would be on their team and she would advocate for them within a different party, which is a really powerful thing to have somebody advocating for you within a different party. Since she is not 100% in agreement on everything that they have to say, she is not on their team at all. And that is so indicative, I think, of just tribalism in a lot of ways, extremists on both sides, but mainly in the leftist camp.
The LGBTQ. And then you have some person that explicitly doesn't support LGBTQ, but both of us and this whole side is saying, do what you want. We're not going to threaten you. We're not going to hurt you.
But
isn't that proof that there's going to be no violence?
And
by the way, I think that self-victimization of any kind is shameful. I wasn't coming at you because you're gay. I think when people make themselves victim of any group, it's shameful.
Is there ever?
So it has nothing to do with you being
I want to let you to.
So it has you think you're saying it's not about me being gay, it's that I self-victimized?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Well,
a trash thing to say.
Why do I have to lie? You can go on my Instagram.
But it has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. That's all I'm saying.
I'm saying.
Right. This dude is, if Trump gets reelected, he's going to live through another 4 years of Donald Trump. He's going to get out on the other end of it. He'll probably be a more successful person, probably have more money, maybe even a family of his own. I don't know what his current situation is. Is he still going to say he was petrified the last 4 years of the term that he experienced? I guess we're going to wait and see. I think I've seen him in Jubilee videos before. So maybe 4 years from now, we'll see him in another Jubilee video where he's still existing, he's still surviving, and he's still thriving. And we'll talk about whether or not the Trump presidency actually petrified him and made him so scared for his life that he had to move out of the country.
Saying it does. You don't have to mean to cause harm.
We haven't heard from everyone on this team.
True.
Take the
So
floor.
I can say something, okay? And I am empathetic. I have gay family members that I love, but I think in gay culture that gay men have more prevalent sex probably than heterosexual relationships. And oftentimes I would be scared too if the relevancy of HIV was much higher if I was sleeping with men. So I understand that fear, and that is a little dangerous.
Alex Stein is the worst. Let me just go ahead and put that out there. I don't even care. That's the worst. To have a type of person who enters a discussion to make jokes, and not only jokes that have nothing to do with what you're talking about, but are at the expense of something that just is just so separated from the actual legitimate conversation that people are having, is just so irritating.
Now, on top of that, when you look at Donald Trump, you say we're going to go far right. Everybody knows Caitlyn Jenner. You guys know Caitlyn Jenner. Well, she's allowed to pee in the women's room. So if
Not in some states.
in all of Mar-a-Lago, so Donald Trump will let a transgender person pee in their bathroom.
And?
So that means that he doesn't dislike trans.
The problem is that the Republican platform does. You guys have come out here saying it, besides you, that there's a serious problem with LGBT.
I don't really think this is the problem.
You agree that it's not going to go more far right. It's the president, not the president.
This is my point. Is I don't think anybody really, even on the conservative side, care about people being gay, because there's gay conservatives, obviously. Yeah. But what's going on now is there's an attack on children now, where you have to have a pride flag in first grade. You're teaching sexual education at way too young of an age, and in that sexual education, they're not just teaching you heterosexual sex. They're teaching you gay anal sex. To me, that is called indoctrination. So we don't like the gay indoctrination of young children when you're giving them hormones to reassign their gender that are permanent, that they say that they're not permanent. You're giving kids mastectomies, 14-year-olds. Chloe Cole got a mastectomy. There's a lot of detransitioners. So there's an attack by the LGBTQ community, whatever you want to call it, on young people. If the LGBTQ just wants to do it with adults, I think we'd all be okay with that.
We should have just started there with the argument, Alex. Very good points.
That's the face I made when I saw my first family-friendly drag show. I made that same
Listen. I want to be real clear about this.
We don't want drag queen story time.
I want to be real clear about this.
I'm loud and clear.
You're not listening. I wish you would.
Go ahead.
Fewer than 10% of people detransition. And the vast majority of those people, I'll let you finish once I'm done.
It's still a pretty high percentage. I'd argue that the percentage is higher than that, and you just don't have a great rate of return when it comes to a lot of these studies and surveys. You also have, a suicide rate within the transgender community that is particularly concerning. And not detransitioning is not necessarily a sign of a lack of regret. So that's something to talk about as well. But even so, if you have a little less than 10% of people in any given group deciding to completely revert back from the lifestyle choice that they made, that's a concerning figure. And of course, the figure is much higher than that.
Fewer than 10%, okay? And the vast majority of them specifically report that they do it because of social pressure or being rejected by their family. But let's be perfectly clear. What you call indoctrination, which I consider a bigoted thing to say, and I'll explain why. Hold your gunpowder, I'll explain why.
Ryan.
I'll explain why. Part of my journey as a queer person was finding positive role models, which I didn't have. And let's be clear, you conflate a thing that isn't really a thing, indoctrinating kids with anal sex, which is a ridiculous thing to say, with...
Not ridiculous. There's many a video of parents going to different school board meetings, confronting their school board members, showing the books that people have been circulating within libraries that actively show depictions of these sort of sexual acts, talk about different pronouns that they can use, talk about gender nonconformity, non-binary, transgender, all of these different things in vivid detail, okay? There's video after video of this. All you have to do is do a quick Google search of pornographic books in school board, and you will find it.
What's actually being banned is permission to acknowledge. In fact, in my home state in Tennessee, I'll let you know when I'm done. In my home state in Tennessee, anybody under the age of 18 who expresses in any way being something other than heteronormative, their school system is required to report it to their parents. And I have to tell you, I would be lucky. Look at me. I'm lucky because my parents wouldn't have kicked me out. I'm lucky that my parents wouldn't have sent me to conversion therapy. Listen to me. What I'm telling you, friend, is that there are millions of queer people whose parents would kick them out, send them to conversion therapy, shun them. I have a friend, actually, to whom this happened.
Millions of kids suddenly kicked out of their home. Millions of developing children suddenly kicked out of their home because their parents found out they're gay.
He was unable to get in-state tuition for college because his parents refused to fill out the FAFSA for him. And that's a tiny little inconsequential example of the pain that being different from the get causes. And when you do things like conflate some kind of abuse on children by making space for queer people to be acknowledged to exist, which is really all that's happening.
No, two very different things. If my kid's getting a book in kindergarten that says, oh, some people have two mommies, some people have two daddies. Me personally, I don't care about that. That's a conversation I can have with my child. I prefer to have that conversation with my child myself rather than the school doing that. But I'm not gonna go and throw a fit at a school board meeting over that. However, if my 5-year-old is getting a book in the library that shows two men performing sex acts on one another, we're going to have a problem, and I am going to be showing up to the school board, and my kid is not going to be going to that school anymore. And that is what's happening. So people will try to make the argument that it's really a don't say gay bill. We're not allowed to utter the words gay. We're not allowed to talk about different people loving each other, which I don't know why you would need to have those conversations in school in the first place. But we'll grant that some parents are not going to be willing to have these conversations, and some kids aren't going to feel seen, or they're going to be abused in the wake of all this. That does not make the school the arbiter of values. The school is not to give their values that are, I guess, chosen by the government in the instance of public schools down to the children, and then keep hush tones among them and don't tell mommy and daddy that we're having these conversations. It is simply not the job of a school, even if you think that's what a school should do. Even if you think that kids are going to have a hard time at home and mom and dad won't be accepting of them, it is not the job of a public institution.
You hurt all of us. You want to get into hormone replacement therapy, you want to get into gender affirming care, fine, but I want to be clear, putting a flag in this right now, if we're going to talk about it, we should talk about it, because you do not know what you're talking about.
Let me just say one question.
Okay, one last thing, and then we'll...
Two temper tantrums on the left side so far, and I think I'll give Alex a point on the right side for a temper tantrum, just because he's annoying me.
What percentage of gay men identify as being sexually abused as a child, would you say?
I don't have that in front of me.
Very little.
Oh, give me
That's going to take
Are you suggesting that
Are you saying that
child sexual abuse causes men to be gay later in life? Yeah, there's
that's a whole other thing. I'll give you a quick 5-second wrap up.
They're not ready for that conversation. It actually is a very high percentage of the homosexual community that experiences assault, and that is not to at all tear down the identity of those people or the sexuality of those people. It is just to simply acknowledge a fact and something that we should be able to talk about, especially in a culture that emphasizes victimhood so much. Let's talk about real victims. And that doesn't label all gay men in that light or say that, every single one of you has experienced that, but it is to say a real big percentage. And we should be able to discuss that. I don't like the sort of like cavalier way in which Alex Stein is talking about something that is very, very serious, sexual assault, but he's not saying something that's untrue.
Statistic I think is the most important is after transitioning, the suicide rate, which is real high.
That's false.
True.
I can prove you wrong. I can prove you wrong.
Transgender people have the highest rate of suicide.
They're the most.
Why though? That is no.
Probably because of hormones and
I will go get the data for you. You pulled yours. I'd be happy to pull mine. 86% of people who have access to gender affirming care, this is a studied fact, are less likely.
Unfortunately, we do have to move on to the next pump just because of time reasons. All right, everyone. There should be an age limit for the presidency. Will the agreeers please step forward?
And I mean, not necessarily. I think it's all about your physical and cognitive health. So if you can undergo some sort of test to prove your competency in both of those realms, then you'd be okay. I don't know, there necessarily needs to be an age limit. Of course, we socially have like a cohesive idea of when we hear a certain age, we all sort of, maybe that's a little bit too old. And we're experiencing a gerontocracy in a lot of ways with our current government and how it's being run, and just old people who should not be there staying. Mitch McConnell's a great example. Dianne Feinstein was a great example. Ruth Bader Ginsburg not deciding to resign, prior to her death as another great example. But I don't know that an age limit is what needs to be instituted, rather than like health assessments for these individuals to see if they're still capable of serving.
There already is.
How?
There already is. You can't be president unless you're, I think, 35 or 40. You can't be president if you're 20. And the founders had a reason for that, and I think it's not a stretch to go, well, if you're not quite ready yet until you're 35 or 40, maybe near the end of your life you're not either. And so I do think it makes sense to explore an age cap.
What do you think that cutoff should be?
I don't know that I know what the cutoff should be. I think, 100 years from now, the likelihood of someone who's 75 to be fully with it is probably a lot higher than it is today. So I don't know. I feel like, in a way, setting a number today could be a little bit arbitrary 100 years from now. But I think it's a conversation we should have, and perhaps like we should have pegged the minimum wage to inflation in the 60s, maybe we should peg the age cap to something that changes over time as well. I think that the vast majority...
Like a cognitive test or something that would make the age limit sort of arbitrary,
Americans think we should have, 2 nominees who are under 70.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like at a certain age, your mental abilities and your cognitive abilities, they're going to decline, obviously, as you approach 65 and older. And I think it's also really important to have someone younger in office because they understand society as it changes. When you have somebody that's a boomer and we have, Gen Z, Gen X, they don't understand and they can't comprehend the same problems that we experience because they never had to go through that. So having somebody younger that's in office, I think it'd be beneficial, especially for the younger generations.
Healthy balance. With age comes wisdom and seeing things as they change and knowing how change impacts people and society through the generational scheme of things, whereas a young person doesn't have that. So you can make arguments in a lot of different directions here. It's really about competence and physical health.
I don't think that there's a specific number per se. Like, there is a point where we just say that somebody's too old, right? I was very vocal in saying that Dianne Feinstein should step down, because she's getting carted around by different Democrats that just want to maintain the facade that she's with it, right? We have video after video of her just like kind of losing it while she's doing her senatorial jobs. And now we have LaFonza Butler, who's doing an amazing job, and she's young and she's with it, and she represents the state very well. Feinstein had a great, very long career. Yet there was a certain point where she stopped hitting the ball as hard as she could have. And that's a very pleasant way of
You're
putting
saying it's not an age, but it's
It's not. It's not fair to like box it in like they should take a cognitive test or this person needs to be analyzed for their mental fitness. Like there's a point. It's a very amalgamous line.
I don't know about that. I feel like
why is that not fair?
At a certain point, because if you're going to have this position of power, you need to be able to, I think that we need to take those steps and make sure that their mental capacity is there, because at a certain point, you need to be able to handle a lot of pressure that's on you. We can't have somebody who can't handle it.
Yeah.
So having, your mental health is so important, and making sure that you have the cognitive ability to do the things that you need to do as a president, that's so important.
Yeah, I think there's no easy answer here though, because not everybody ages at the same rate.
Yeah.
And we get flack for saying this.
Age.
We get flack for saying this in the Democratic Party. Like if we start bringing up a problem that's a vulnerability for our presidential candidate, we look like backstabbers. But the problem is that sometimes your candidate and the person that's representing you no longer can represent you, either in your ideology or in their efficacy as a representative.
How do you feel about Trump? Do you feel like he is?
I also feel like he is. I know that I think that we need somebody that's a lot younger. I just think they're all old.
Yeah, I mean, I have
with no basis for that argument.
Friends in the party who are pushing 70, pushing 80. These are very old people that are still involved in politics, and power to them for wanting to keep going and to have something to do and to like be involved politically. Like we always see that seniors are more involved politically than any other generation, but there comes a point where you're like, these presidents were born in the 1940s. Like, that's a long time. That's a different world. Like, it's hard to wrap my head around what they're going through and how they're trying to analyze my feelings, the party's feelings, how the country should be represented without it being a little off.
I just think you should have just a healthy mix of ages is always a good thing. So if like you have a president who's super old, maybe within his cabinet, you want a healthy mix of different ages and with different experiences. It should not be lost on us that older people have experienced history and they've actually lived through the history and know what it was like. Whereas, younger people can only read about that and have the frame of reference of having just like read a book about what was happening at the time. Meanwhile, they've never experienced it and have no idea what was really going on. And that's why you need a mix of both perspectives, because at the same time, old people get really removed from the experiences of young people and what this generation is going through. And we all watched that as we had our representatives question the CEO of TikTok, right? And ask him, is TikTok connected to the Wi-Fi network? And how does this work how does the algorithm work on TikTok? And is China controlling this, that, and the other? They had no idea what they were talking about. And you had a few young people who knew the right questions to ask, who actually knew how the app worked. So you need a mix. we need a healthy amount of every age group, I feel like, in order to make things work properly.
All right, let's bring on the $50 super chat here. I'm going to read real quick from Andres, who says, as a gay man, leave kids alone, remove insanity from the LGBTQ plus, separating the LGB from the TQ plus. And I see many conservatives wanting to take away the egalitarian marriage. I don't like that.
Take away the marriage for all. Yeah, I mean, there are conservatives, and I would imagine more religious conservatives who don't want gay marriage to be legalized. And what I would say to those individuals is it's totally fine from your religious standpoint that you believe that they're not, actual marriages. That being said, why would it matter? If they're not real marriages, then why does it matter in the first place? And also, the government gives certain benefits to people who get married. If that was not the case, then I don't know what the argument for gay marriage would be. But so long as you're giving tax cuts for this and that and family and marriage and all these different things, you kind of have to allow people who have different forms of relationships to get married. Of course, I'm a non-religious person, so it's not impactful to me at all whether whoever is allowed to get married to who they want to. But that's just what I would say. So long as there are specific, benefits given to people through marriage, I don't know that you can withhold that access from others, even though if you feel like religiously it's not a real thing. And yeah, I do, from a Christian perspective. Yeah. If gay people are getting married and Christians believe it not to be a real marriage, why does it matter anyways if it's not a real marriage? Are they upset that it's being called marriage? And that is
I think
somehow...
on a cultural level, there's, scruples over the definition of marriage, which is relevant, but our culture has drifted so far from like the sort of, being firmly in a sort of Judeo-Christian paradigm that it's difficult to make that argument without needing to impose it in some way. So I don't think that one has merit. I think if you're a religious person who is opposed to gay marriage, I think that you have to ground the argument not in something that doesn't have to do with religion. And I think the best line that I've heard to that effect is that the state has a stake in procreation in the sense of like having good birth rates and incentivizing family formation, because that is something that is just objectively good for society. And since it's a man and a woman that can procreate, it makes sense to incentivize male-female marriages. And then there's also the idea that in principle, a marriage has been something that is between a man and a woman, and because it is staked on procreation, or that it's necessarily a part of the institution. So those are arguments that I think hold a little more weight in the discussion. Mm-hmm. But because of where our culture is at right now, it's I don't know. I'm kind of, as a Christian, I know where I stand, but as a citizen who happens to be Christian, I'm a little bit more like where to come down on this argument is not as clear to me.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for the clarity on that.
Disagreeers.
Yesterday, Donald Trump was shot in the head, and he got up immediately, raised his fist in the air, started fist pumping and yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." The next morning, he got up and he made his 9 o'clock tea time. Age is just a number, and Donald Trump proves that day in and day out, and he's proved that over the last 10 years. He proved that during his presidency. I know 30-year-olds who couldn't do that, who can't even wake up after drinking and make their tea times in the morning. This is a man who got shot in the head and made his tea time, and he's swinging dingers off of the tee box.
And then a few days later, delivered an over 90-minute speech and address to a massive crowd after all the PTSD of being shot whilst being in front of a crowd, and did so, with perfect cadence, didn't lose his mark, didn't anything. So
like a legend.
Why do we care?
Because he can do the job. Age is just a number, and has some people like Joe Biden, they're old and it does affect them. They fall going up a flight of stairs. And so in that case, I think, yeah, you're too old. But there are people that are around Joe Biden's age, like Donald Trump, that prove that it is just a number and he can effectively do the job.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Because I've seen hours of footage that portray Trump as clearly senile, and you haven't.
You definitely have not. I'll just go ahead and put that out. You have not seen any footage that portrays Trump as being senile, because he's not senile.
Obviously.
I saw him got shot yesterday. And
I
got
know.
up.
The interesting thing about
aging,
about aging is it's not like it's a one slide. People have their moments on the way down. Everybody sure. All I'm saying is I've seen him be remarkably, honestly, scarily not fully with even the sentence he's making. And so I'm just curious, do you think it's possible that we're in different news bubbles and you might feel differently if you were seeing
It's possible that we're in different worlds, buddy. Because literally, what?
Or the stuff that I see, for instance.
I've seen videos where it appears that way, but so I think that it can go both ways. But again, I also saw Donald Trump get shot in the head and wake up at 9 a.m. and make his tea time. I see the fire.
There's a totally big, huge difference between losing your frame of like reference for a sentence you're making or something like that, and senility. These are two very, very different things. And to make them the same, which is what a lot of people on the left like to do when talking about Trump and Biden as a means of putting them on the same like level playing field, to do that would be, you know, like ignorant. You're playing games. You're manipulating what is the actual truth. Trump is not senile. He has not been senile. He may be senile in his future and as he gets older, but he is not senile.
Fire that's within him.
That
is undeniable, and that is why earlier we said that moment changed everything, because the fire that you saw in that man is undeniable. There is video proof of it. There are pictures, and that's something that doesn't go away.
Okay, I think we've got this prompt. We're gonna move on. I don't need to hear them.
To be fair, like getting shot in the air, I mean, it's courageous and it demonstrates like a resolve to get up the next day and go somewhere. But like having a bullet clip your ear doesn't necessarily like drain your energy to where you wouldn't be able to get out of bed the next day. But I will say, if you have any questions about Trump's stamina or what have you, go check out Bryson DeChambeau, the professional golfer. He did a video with him where he played 18 holes with Trump and they tried to break a score of 50, which is insane. And you see Trump in really rare form. It's an hour-long video, and the way that they're just kicking back and forth, and you're seeing Trump go almost shot for shot with a professional golfer and just being totally present, totally just chill, talking about, you know, all kinds of telling old stories that he's had and just swinging a golf club like it's nothing. I mean, it's a better frame of reference than just saying, oh, he got shot in the ear and got up the next day and therefore he's totally mentally strong and capable.
Right, 100%. Like during his presidency, Trump was up at all hours of the night, tweeting at us, like letting us know everything that was going on in his life, just talking straight to the American people, cracking jokes at like 3 a.m. You think that man doesn't have energy? Are you kidding me?
Okay. With this election, our democracy is at threat. Will the agreeers please step forward?
Democracy is at threat with this election.
Yeah, I mean,
I might walk forward for very different reasons. There's a lot of media manipulation. There's a lot of election stuff going on as far as tricks being pulled, and the fact that you're manipulating the American people with certain narratives and then having those American people go vote without telling them the truth is a whole other form of interference within democracy. The attempted assassination of somebody running for president is a threat to democracy, and the really alienating language used to refer to that person that arguably leads to more acts of violence is a threat to democracy. So, yeah, I mean, I might walk forward for this one, to be honest.
The left-leaning candidate not being democratically chosen is also a factor in this. But yeah, all jokes aside, I mean, of course, you know that people on the left in this video are probably going to come up and say, yeah, because it's Trump, he's a threat to democracy. But that just goes back to underscore the prior point that, you know, if you truly believe that, then you have to also support the rhetoric or support the conclusion that comes from that someone should do something about it as they're intimating, and then we get back into that whole discussion. So here we go.
Yep.
I mean, Donald Trump did not take his loss in 2020 very well, and I worry this time he's learned from his mistakes and will put people in positions that prevent us from having free and fair elections moving forward. So that's basically my biggest concern right there, is that the people he'll put into these positions will make up for what he failed to achieve last time.
In the 2020 election, Donald Trump won all 50 states when it came to in-person voting. Joe Biden won all 50 states when it came to mail-in ballots. So that opened up the door to fraud, in my opinion. I think it's very obvious that the election was fraudulent. And the reason why this election is such a threat to our democracy is because I think they're going to do it again, is I think they're going to cheat. And it's very easy for them to do it, especially mail-in ballots still existing. So if they do cheat again, which I think is highly likely, because Joe Biden's a potato and a corpse, I think it is a threat to our democracy because people will lose all faith and hope. And I think January 6th, an event probably much worse than that, will actually happen.
Can I ask a quick question? Donald Trump voted by mail. Do you have an issue with that?
Oh, come on. I'm talking about
What do you mean, oh, come on? That's the fact.
Donald Trump, I don't care how Donald Trump votes, but I
think they should really tamp down on voting by mail. You know, I'm like all for an absentee ballot, and, you know, we have people overseas and all these different things, but like to make voting by mail a primary way of voting is kind of a little crazy to me when we're looking at our election history as a country. And I don't know what you have to do to make everything like good and kosher for everybody to be able to vote. Maybe you make it a day off and everybody just gets the day off at election day, and that's your moment to go to your polling site and vote. And they have like polling buses for people who don't have cars and transportation to get people to and fro so that you can have a fair election. But I don't know that voting by mail needs to be a standard that is being set. And interestingly enough, it was very quickly ushered in.
About the the 22 million illegal immigrants coming. The biggest margin in election was Reagan's last election when he won. He won by 17 million votes. Now and there's New York Times people have said this, over 22 million illegal immigrants have come across to our country. So if they just vote for a Democratic candidate, which they normally do, they can rig every election through that method.
People who aren't citizens can't vote.
Yes, they can.
No, they can't.
Arizona,
Republicans made it illegal in 1995.
Okay, no, you're right.
You don't think an illegal? Let me just say this: you don't think an illegal immigrant has ever voted in the federal election?
No, because it's not.
Oh
counted.
my God!
No, actually, I disagree with that. I
You don't think no. This guy, the delegate guy, you're so smart. You don't think an illegal immigrant has ever voted in the presidential federal election?
Look at this, like, energy. Look at he's literally grasping at nothing. Chill, calm down. It's really not that deep. Like, even if this was a super huge debate that was going to, like, change everything that happens from this point on, couldn't you just chill a little bit? This is a Jubilee video, y'all, at the end of the day. At the end of the day, this is a YouTube video.
Probably not.
Oh my God.
I disagree.
Dude, you're gonna get that on tape. That's how slow
That's how slow he is?
You don't think an illegal immigrant has ever voted in a
I want to hear Republicans made it illegal.
You don't think people break the law? You don't think people break the law?
Would you like to share?
Of course it's happened, by the way. Of course.
What was the prompt? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're playing this character right now, and it's really exhausting. No,
but you're different in the other room. You're different in every other room, except when you're on a camera. You have some other personality that comes on.
I'm a pimp on a blimp. Well, you guys can't compete with me. I'm a master debater.
What that is?
Yes, you guys are getting crushed.
I
would feel sad too if I were you.
This is not a competition thing. It's just your.
It is.
This is an act for you, and it's embarrassing.
It's not an act at all.
It's exhausting.
You're embarrassing that you're
listening to
terrified that you can't murder your baby. You're terrified that you can't get an abortion and murder your baby.
It's not a baby.
We're talking.
If you don't think in your stomach that's a baby,
hey, we're talking about.
That's more embarrassing.
My friends.
You want to murder
a baby. My friends. We're talking about the prompt right now is about democracy. I think we can all agree that's a really important topic to talk about, right? We got an audience right here. People are listening. Let's not waste this time. Am I right?
You know.
Let's not waste this time. We were far past that. My time was wasted long ago.
Done this thing before, and I'm really having a hard time right now because I feel like we're not trying to find each other. We're trying to make each other wrong, and it's not working for me.
Well, you're also attempting to do that, so.
Bring this back to the prompt. June, do you want to share something specifically about democracy?
I don't even know anymore.
You guys are you gonna rage quit?
Do you not
I'm just disappointed in you, honestly.
Okay, can you everybody just shut the fuck up so I can talk? Democracy's at threat. It's plain and fucking simple. There is going to be a point, there's going to be a breaking point where Democrats and Republicans cannot work together to facilitate any legislation whatsoever. There's going to be a point where the Government Accountability Office is not able to transition the democracy anymore. There's no peaceful transfer of power like there is in other democracies, such as in India, in Japan, in UK. All of those different principles of democracy are going to go out the window.
Who is he looking at when he's talking? I'm just noticing that he's
And on previous Jubilee videos, they've talked about anti-Trump Republicans saying democracy is at threat. Pro-Trump Republicans have said we don't even live in a democracy. So choose your fucking statements wisely, choose who you vote for wisely, choose which party you support for wisely, because one wants to support democracy, keep going, and one doesn't.
All right, let's bring on the disagrees, please.
It's just it's a non-argument. It really is. I just don't know what to say to this anymore. And the temper tantrum is really helping. You sound sane.
It's giving those slam poet leftist things that you react to.
Yes.
It's like this grandstanding and you have to speak all dramatically and no one ever knows what you're saying, but you're saying it so like faux eloquently that you pretend like it has this massive impact, and people are just like eyes glazing over.
Right. Yeah. I just don't even know where to stand at this point. Like everybody's so like fatalistic in their view of the world, and everything's ending and it's catastrophic. And I don't know whether or not I should feel that way because other people feel that way, or if I don't feel that way because those people are insane and they're just living in these extreme bubbles that are not representative of the actual world. I don't know where we're at right now.
Here, disagreeers. Is everyone here supportive of democracy? Raise your hand if you are.
Yeah. Okay.
Case in point.
Okay. I'd love to hear more.
So I think I think a lot of people will wake up, and I think in that sort of sense, I think people will definitely choose. I think America's always had the right to choose. We choose who we vote for. And I think, again, like Roe v. Wade being overturned, again, people are going to scream at me, but I think it's a good thing because it's at the state level. People can more choose. It's more personal now. You can choose. I'm against it, but you know, whatever, that's fine. I can go vote in my local state and I can vote against it. America, being a democracy, there's arguments between it, but I think people, most important is that people do their own research, they use their critical thinking skills. I think Trump's going to encourage that, so.
But you think democracy is at risk specifically with this election?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. Yeah, that's right, you're disagreeing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we're not a democracy, or that's not what the Founding Fathers intended. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. And democracies, they breed mob rule, and I think that's unfortunately some of what we have now. So the reason I don't think it's a threat to democracy is because I'm very hesitant to use that phrasing. I think that saying that is fear-mongering unless it's absolutely true. It's something you hear from Democrats almost every single election, and so I'm hesitant to use it. But I do think that our country is in a dangerous place. But in terms of a threat to democracy, no.
What's the difference between democracy and constitutional republic in your eyes?
In my eyes, a constitutional republic is electing the best person for the job and then having that person make decisions on behalf of the people. And and democracy is mob rule. It's everybody. Just mob rule.
But is it semantics to get into whether or not we are a democracy or a constitutional republic, or to talk about the values of democracy? Because in America, we support the values of democracy. Peter Navarro, who's a Trump appointee, is quoted saying that America is the arsenal of democracy.
I think that word is used wrong all the time.
So then
I don't know that specific case.
So then how do we use it to define America?
In your words, like, can you articulate what the values of democracy are? Because maybe it is semantics.
Democracy goes against authoritarianism. That is my equivalency here, right? There's democracy and there's authoritarianism. So we have authoritarian governments that are our opponents. We also have some that are our allies, but for the most part, we go against authoritarianism. We don't like Putin. We don't like Xi. We don't like Kim. Right? These are all three autocrats that operate their government at the very top with an autocrat in power. Democracies, however, function with heads of government, heads of state, making sure that people have the ability to choose how they live, whether or not they have civil liberties, whether or not they have civil freedoms and civil rights to operate under. Our legislature operates to give us that voice in our democracy. Whether or not it's a republic or whether or not it's a democracy, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we have the option of voicing how we want to live. If you live in Saudi Arabia or...
I think they're kind of just like talking past each other. It seems like when he's in his defense of democracy, he's talking about people being able to vocalize, vote, choose their representatives, have a say in the way that their governments are run on a local and federal level. And I think what Aldo is talking about is he wants protections for the minority, which is, I guess, not explicitly stated in like democratic values. And he wants to live in a republic that, while it allows people to vocalize and vote, is protective of the minority that could get crushed with democratic values, considering he considers it to be majority rule, if that makes sense. He just wants a system that allows the minority to be protected, irrespective of where the majority goes.
Or in Iran, you don't necessarily have those options.
Well, when I think of democracy versus constitutional republic, the main difference I see is state power versus federal power. In democracies, everybody has to follow the same thing. If it's a federal law, like more overarching power, more top-down type of power. And constitutional republic, I guess, in my eyes, is more bottom-up, is that every state, they have the power to do their things. They have the power to tell the federal government, no, you cannot intrude on us. This is what we're going to do in our state. And I think that's a lot better than one entity at the top telling everybody what they must do.
So he's like a Jeffersonian anti-federalist kind of thing going on, I think.
You can choose for how your state goes and what direction your state goes in, right?
Right.
And regardless if we were a confederacy or if we were an actual federal government as we are right now, you have to support your option as a citizen to choose how your government directs itself.
Right.
So that's democracy, in my opinion.
I explained mine, you explained yours. I think we both understand each other.
All right, everyone, let's move on to the next prompt. I feel
The
confident
last prompt. Woo!
my party will win this election. Will the agreeers please step forward?
I feel confident my party will win this election. I'm not confident in anything at this point. I don't know what's going to go on. Kamala Harris just had one of the most successful fundraising weekends for a presidential campaign yet. So there's money at least moving in her direction. I don't know that it's going to garner really big support for her. I don't know if any monkey business is going to happen behind the scenes with this election, and if strings are going to be pulled, or if the media apparatus is going to start its own, smear campaign, which it has been effectively doing for a very long time now. I think they'll ratchet that up a lot. I don't know what will happen during this election, so I can't confidently say my party will win. Yeah.
Yeah. If everything were fair and unmeddled with, then I would have a reasonable amount of confidence. But given that's not the case and not the world that we live in, I can't say I do. And it looks like you guys are pretty evenly split, actually exactly 50-50 here in the chat. I'm confident my party will win the election. And 50% agree, 50% disagree.
Which doesn't exactly instill confidence, does it?
Not at all.
Okay.
I think there's been a massive awakening from this assassination attempt. I think people like Elon Musk endorsing, people like, who's that other guy? I can't think of his name right now, but another very prominent billionaire, wealthy guy, endorsing. People are waking up. I mean, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, Aiden Ross, all those guys put out tweets, and those are young Gen Z. You guys want to be young Gen Z people should use their voices. I mean, that's what they're doing. I think it's great. I think that there's an awakening from this. People see that. People feel inspired. I mean, he took a bullet for his values. Call it what you want. He took a bullet for his values. And I don't know many other people that would do that. Or
I get that people are going to be inspired by that, but that shouldn't necessarily be your running point, that he survived this thing and he stood up and he put his fist in the air. That is something wholly separate from what his values are, what he's running on. But I get it that it's a powerful moment and it's going to really get people to support him. But if that's the only reason, I think we need a little bit more than that in order to make that the direction we cast our vote in.
Have the goal to stand up and say, fight, 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 if those were going to be the last words he ever said. So I think we will win this election by a landslide. And again, you look at what happened with Reagan. When Reagan was failed assassination attempt on him as well, he won the election by a landslide. So I think we're gonna have a very similar thing, and I think he will take this election because people aren't stupid, and there is hope for our future. I think too many people want to say this entire generation's stupid, it's over. I don't think so. I think people still have critical thinking. I think we have a lot of truth being put out, and I think that a lot of that's because of Trump. I think Trump has brought a lot of truth back, and I think people will choose correctly.
I disagree. I mean, I just disagree with that. I think at some point there's going to be something where Democrats start waking up a lot more than they already have right now, right? There's going to be a point where all of our ballots start getting in our mail in California. We're going to have to push our asses down to be able to get Congress flipped. We have a bunch of different, different congressional districts out here that we need to start flipping in order to mobilize for our party. The thought of Trump really scares a lot of people. It scared me when I was just in school. And I was like, I got to start waking up to this. I was 13 when I started paying attention to politics. And I was sitting in my history class watching C-SPAN all the time, and I'm looking at how just Republicans at that time, before Trump, how Republicans started acting in congressional hearings. And that didn't sit right with me. That's my political socialization, just the same way that you two both had different ones. I think that political socialization is going to turn on for a lot of people very soon.
My reasons are different than those. I got involved in politics.
It's very sad that that was his introduction, was when he was 13. Sort of like you will mourn your childhood at some point down the line, I think, when you get older and you realize that you've been robbed of a childhood experience. And it's something that I went through myself, being politicized very, very early. It's just not how childhood should be. And he's sort of taking that as a moment of honor of I've stepped into this political realm and started learning and educating myself. But it's just not what 13-year-olds need to be doing.
More years ago than I care to admit, being a grassroots volunteer and you fast forward to 2020, I was an advisor to a national presidential campaign, and all in there in between, all the things I ever saw pointed to that infrastructure matters. And the Democratic Party has over like 1,000 field offices already, and the RNC, they gutted their whole staff, and they're just structurally, they're just way behind. And also, there's polling that seems to indicate that more than 50% of Americans see Trump as a threat to democracy, and the vast majority of Americans think democracy is good. So just based on like the kind of bellwethery things that I look for, I think that the odds are on the Democrat side, and I think that what happened at the debate a few weeks ago, what happened with the assassination attempt a couple days ago, those things come and go. The numbers are what they are, and I just think Democrats have an advantage.
Well, I want to say too, what hasn't come and gone is the support.
Well, that's a thing that's common with
Democrats. When I see massive boat parades that I've attended many of, and these are like thousands. There'll be the one guy in his kayak with the Biden sign, sure.
Yeah, but
there's massive boat parades.
But we're really good at getting independents to vote.
Or even, there's no, when there were independent candidates, their rallies were small too. You compare a Trump rally to a Biden rally, there's no comparison.
But
you compare Trump's followers in a couple of days on TikTok to Biden's followers on TikTok, there's no comparison.
None of those are bellwethers, though.
Okay, well, call what you will.
I don't know. These are going to be like neck and neck things. I don't know that there's anything to really be arguing about right now.
Yeah,
it's irrelevant. I don't see Biden supporters. I can't go on the street and find a Biden supporter. It's very hard. It's very hard.
It's also, but it's not characteristic of Democrats to be out loud about our politics the way it is for Republicans. And also, I totally am with you. Like, Trump has a very, very, very passionate, faithful base. I think the electorate that was going to vote for Trump always will. But that's not 50% plus one.
Let's hear from.
I feel like Democrats are only loud when they're angry, and like Republicans are just like loud when they're in support of something. It's like Democrats, you'll see them take to the streets for like women's marches or like the gun control, the March for Our Lives, the Black Lives Matter riots. Then all the Democrats are in the streets, and then for Republicans, it's like, oh, a Trump rally, Trump's coming to town. We're gonna go out and like tell him how much we support him.
From the people who haven't heard from Emily,
I'm going to go, no offense, all of our opinions are valid, but you know me, I live in like the most liberal state and the most liberal part of the state, so like let's be...
live here too.
Yeah, but it's like, let's be real. I think my opinion is a little bit more valid. I'm not hanging out with a bunch of MAGA people in Florida every day, you know what I mean? I will say from personal experience, let's start 4 years ago. I was like, COVID happened. I disagree with everything. I started listening to people I liked, and I was like, you know what? I like them more. I'm going to go with this. I was like, I like Donald Trump. I actually have no reason not to like him when I actually did my research. And then I started wearing MAGA hats in the arts district to Silver Lake of Los Angeles. The death threats to my home, exposing my address, the hate online, the trying to find me, my address, what I had to go through, what my family had to go through, was horrific for genuinely just having a different opinion and being different, which I am where I am. And I went from being shoved next to a cliff on a hike, being called racist, denying I couldn't get service when I went. People spit on me. I mean, like, it was insane because I had a MAGA hat on. I mean, people would just walk up to me and be like, I hope you fucking kill yourself. The reason why I'm so hopeful is like, I'm in it.
Which would just not happen if you're wearing anything that supports Biden. Let's just be honest. You might get a few people if you're in like, I don't know, a sundown town somewhere in the South, but that is not happening if you are wearing something supportive of Biden.
See it. I feel it. When I blew up online, every actor, celebrity, chef, everyone you guys probably follow and love and look up to, every single one was in my DMs. They're like, oh, we love Trump. We just can't lose our careers and businesses. They were like, we can't even follow you online. The biggest actors in the world. Because they were like, we would lose everything. But they were like, just so you know, we're all closeted Republicans. And now, when I wear my MAGA hats out, it is nothing but compliments and love everywhere I go. And that's how I said there was going to be a red wave on Fox News. I was told I'm an idiot. I can feel and I can see 24/7 there is a red wave and it's came.
But hold on. The same thing happens to progressives, right? There's all of our social media is going to be published, right? And if any one of us says something that the vast millions of people that would be watching this,
well, social media is a wholly different ballgame than being in real life,
disagree with, there's a chance we're getting a death threat in our DMs.
I did.
It happens to both sides.
Yeah, it happens to everyone. That's all.
I think that was the most obnoxious and pretentious thing that anybody could ever say. That was just you flexing on everybody else.
Okay.
But why I have faith and I mean, it's just kind of embarrassing for you. Like, why do you feel
embarrassing
you need to do that?
But my love, you genuinely have zero education on anything you've talked about, and you laughed at Donald Trump's assassination, but then you're like,
there are things
I have a moral high ground.
But I'm not going to speak up if I don't have a place to say anything. All four of you.
You shouldn't. You have
place
very
your
little to contribute in general.
In the conversation. No, you place your opinion in the conversation. You don't have facts, and it's embarrassing.
Can you take it back to the prompt?
I have faith in the Democratic Party, and I have faith in Joe Biden because we are the working class. Politics actually affects us, and we don't have time to go out to rallies and participate and do this kind of stuff because we're actually working.
I've worked since I was 17. I don't work.
I worked as well.
She said that she accused, I think, Emily of being pretentious and then said, I'm working. We're the working class. I can't. It's like both of them competing for
I have jobs too.
All right, let's bring in the disagreeers.
I go for it.
Alec, let's start with you. You don't think that your party's going to win this election?
Well, I think that there's a huge case to be made that they could steal this election again. Also, if they shot Donald Trump in the ear, somebody's probably going to try to attack him again. So I think it's very possible that they've tried to assassinate his character, they've tried to throw him in jail, they've tried to literally assassinate him. So I think there's a big possibility that the deep state, the people, these unelected bureaucrats, the CIA, FBI, people that you guys even admit exist, that there's you don't admit that there are unelected bureaucrats that help Joe Biden make decisions?
They aren't supposed to.
No, well, the way you framed that is not.
They stayed there when Trump was in office.
I'm just saying, there's people in the cabinet
service works.
that were not elected.
Let's let him finish. Go ahead.
They never let me finish.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Lie.
Well, you ascribed something to me that I didn't say. That's all.
My point is, there is a deep state, and I think that they stole the first election in 2020. I think it's very likely that they're going to steal the election again in 2024. And if they can't steal it, they will go to any means necessary to take Trump out. They've tried everything. We were 1 inch away from Donald Trump dying. I don't think they're going to miss next time. I hope that doesn't happen, but I think that's a high possibility that he could be attacked again because he's the biggest threat to the deep state.
Do you think he can win fairly?
No, yeah, he's going to win fairly. Yeah, he's going to get more votes.
Then why didn't you come up here first?
I just don't think the results are going to come in my favor. Just like he won fairly in 2020, I think they're going to rig it because there's people in power that are above Donald Trump. Like the president, you have to look at almost like the quarterback. Like he is making the decisions, he is the face of the franchise, but there is an owner, there's a head coach above these presidents that we don't even know about that give these people orders, and those people are the ones that are actually controlling the world. Sorry to break.
I'm just going to leave that said.
Can we take it to you?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump will win, but I'm not confident. And I think that was the prompt, that I'm confident that he's going to win. I think overconfidence is a dangerous thing. I think it makes people very comfortable. And I thought he would win in 2020. I was wrong. I'm a little bit different than Alex. I am certain that there was voter fraud, but I'm not 100% certain that it caused Donald Trump to win the election. That's just me personally. It might have not. I'm not sure. But I do know that overconfidence, does make you comfortable. And I'm just not. And I think the message we need to be telling other conservatives, other Republicans, is that there's a lot on the line. And Donald Trump, you need to go out and vote for him. A lot of people don't realize that there's a difference between a supporter and a voter.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people, probably many people that go to those boat rallies, that go to Donald Trump's events, that don't end up voting. And Democrats are good at getting people out to the polls. They're good at getting people out to the ballot boxes, and that's what's going to determine the election.
Do you feel like you will personally accept the results of this election as, the will of the people?
We'll have to see what the results are at the time. I can't give anything right now. I'll look at it when we see it. Pretty good. You like that? That was pretty good.
Could be better.
I think, accepting is not really a choice. It's going to happen. Whether it happens, what happens. But I think it would be a very dark time for America, and not in the way that people claim, like, oh, they're going to come after the gays, they're going to come after our rights, they're going to come after everybody. That's not true. It's not going to happen if Trump wins. And even if you guys are on the Democratic side, at least just at least just take action. Like, I'm so tired of people sitting and saying things online but not actually doing anything about it. And everyone has to vote. That's why people are writing on the tips now. They're writing no tax on tips, vote for Donald Trump, because, you know, he needs to win.
I just wanted to say for the record, because I was being a little silly before, I will accept the results of the election. And I think, like Bo said, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And yeah, you got to accept what happens in life, so.
Yes, 100%.
Well, I mean, yeah, accept is a whole different ballgame than criticize or like have concerns or suspicions or skepticism toward. So long as everything looks kosher, you know, leading up to the election and during the voting process, then yeah, okay, cool. We'll look at the results there. But if I'm seeing some crazy shit happening, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I didn't see any crazy shit happening. It looks like everything's wholesome to me. I'm gonna be honest about what I see.
What happens, happens. We've lived through Republican presidencies, we've lived through Democratic presidencies, and we've seen in midterms things have gone our way and they haven't, right? I was sitting over here in 2022 fully expecting that you guys would take control of both the House and the Senate, right? Unfortunately for you guys, you didn't. But at some point, we were really good at getting people to vote. We reminded people why they didn't like Republicans. And it worked even after so much gerrymandering happened in state after state after state, even with independent commissions, I'll have you. So that said, there always has to be anybody, Republican or Democrat, choosing to accept the election. And just for the record, it has caused a lot of pain that January 6th happened. It has caused a lot of pain that there is this wishy-washy back and forth on whether or not it happened or whether or not.
Stick to the question.
Oh, so much pain. Where? A lot of pain. Whose pain? You mean the people who are still in jail because they decided to go to a protest, to a peaceful protest on January 6th, and they actually were peaceful? A lot of these people still in jail? Yeah, okay.
That is the question. I'm sorry, it is. You can't keep fucking around with saying what the prompt is and what it isn't, because we're talking about saving democracy. We're talking about making sure that it doesn't crumble, that people don't have the opportunity to vote.
Oh, his attitude is too much for me. It's too much for me, baby.
And he's wiping his tears away because he doesn't want people to vote.
There's countries in South America that can count the votes in 24 hours. I will not accept the results of this election if it takes more than 72 hours to give us those results.
Well, apples to oranges. You know, I got to say,
even if Trump wins?
Even if Trump wins, how about that?
All right.
Yeah, there's no reason that we're not capable of counting those votes and doing it in time, and that it should take, you know, all this extended time in order to do that, because we're, mail in this, absentee that, we don't know, the electronic machines, a glitch in the system. No. You should be able to count the votes on the day that people vote and figure that out and let people know. You shouldn't get 72 hours to move things around and, oh my gosh, we forgot these ballots, or, they're not done counting. Why is it that all of a sudden it takes all this time to figure out who won an election?
I'm kind of middle ground.
Yeah, there you go. There it is, baby.
We did it. This is such a shame. I wish I feel responsible for this too, that we really didn't find much of a middle ground. This feels like it's kind of been a waste, but I'm going to accept the election, absolutely. I think, we actually don't have one. We have like over 100 elections, state and county level elections that all add up. And so that's part actually why it takes so long. But yeah, whatever the results are, I accept them.
All right, everybody. So unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Thank you all for being here, sharing your voice with people. You're representing, millions of people out there. Thank you for being authentic, and thank you for being here.
And I apologize if I was too hard on you guys. I'm sorry.
No, you weren't hard. You were insulting.
Yeah, insulting, playing a
little condescending.
Pimp on a blimp.
I'm not playing a character. I am a pimp on a blimp.
He's a pimp.
What the fuck?
That's Alex 999.
That's it.
Yeah, all right. Wrap. Thank God.
You are.
I am that.
Wow, the long-haired guy's like, I gotta get out of here, yanking his mic from underneath his shirt. That's probably a very expensive mic. As somebody who's been on a Jubilee set, to be nice. And the mic guy is so nice. So maybe don't yank his equipment out from under your shirt. Oh my goodness, guys. Do you feel like your time's been wasted? Hopefully not, because you're sitting with me going through this, right, guys? I don't think we found any middle ground at all. I'm actually trying to rack my brain. Was there one moment that they found middle ground? You'll have to let me know in the comments down below. But we're going to get into your super chats and get through them. Talk to you guys.
We'll get through these. Wow. It'll be easier than getting through that video.
Yes, it will.
But yeah, looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Timothy W. is our first one. He says, if I had $1 for every time someone said something stupid in this video, I'd have my own reality TV show.
You're fired.
Why would you spend your dollars on a reality TV show is my question.
He wants to be like Trump. There we go. Maybe that's why. And yeah, you'd have a lot of money in this episode. We'd be all going to the bank, okay?
Forearm Game Strong says, hey there, A and Tay. Yes, what Emily said was dumb, saying I'm well known, but she's a hot white girl and I'd make an exception for her, LOL.
Oh my gosh. So an exception. You normally like the Asians and the Latinas, but you'll go there for Emily. I'm sure she's very happy to know that.
Yes, thank you for that pivotal weighing in. Christopher Alcine says, how come Candace Owens goes live when you guys do? That's not fair. I don't want to have to choose. Happy Monday and lots of love support. Thanks again.
I did not know that, but happy choosing on that one. I'd say it's not so tough a choice. But it's because it's my channel. I have to say that.
Yeah, we're biased. We try not to be biased on things, but we'll be biased on that one.
In this case, I'm going to be biased. Yeah.
Also, we were here first, so
exactly.
There's that.
There's that.
Ashley Davis says, excited to be on your live. Thank you for being awesome. Love your takes.
Oh, thank you. That is so sweet. Thanks, Ashley.
Turtle Islander says, I think Alex being there alone made it 2 times funnier.
Debatable. That's actually the most debatable part of anything we've talked about today. I'm not an Alex Stein stan, if you couldn't tell from this video.
Based on my explicit statement saying I'm not an Alex Stein.
Exactly.
Forearm Game Strong says, by the way, Kings never date a girl like that one in the blue, even though she's fine, because she's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Get you a woman like Emily, LOL.
You can't help it. You just can't help but think about these things, I guess.
Blue Catu says, I used to work for CNN years ago in editing. The unsaid motto was, if it bleeds, it leads. Anything to raise ratings went to the front page.
Yeah, and that's something that's so wrong with our news. There's so many things that we should know but won't know because who cares? Nobody wants to know these things. It's boring. It's menial. But yeah, big problem. Big problem.
Tragicastan. Stanley Butler says, longtime viewer, first time catching live. Democrats and never Trump. Oh, I was a Democrat and never Trumper in 2016. 2024 Republican voting for the felon. Thanks for facts and showing the light.
Wow. So somebody's gone through their own little journey. I'd be curious to know what the straw that broke the camel's back was on that one. Very interesting. And thanks for watching.
Forearm again says Al Franken was only removed from the Senate because at the time it was widely perceived as the right thing to do was step down, but not anymore.
I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with that story.
Yeah, I want to say there was some video of him doing, like, acting inappropriately around a woman, but I don't remember specifically, so don't take my word for it. Let's see. Martin Salabi says, thank you for your work. It brings me closer to the events in the USA. Greetings from the Czech Republic, the heart of Europe.
Ooh, very, very cool. Yeah, that's interesting to be watching and trying to get the U.S. perspective from there. Hopefully I'm giving you a holistic view of what's going on. We try to hit as many of the common points as we can so that our international viewers have a little bit of a grasp on what's going on here.
Honestly. JSOL03 says, after watching 10 minutes of this, I now completely understand why the left is so turned off by the right, quote unquote, right? Because they choose some of the most cringe Republicans they could find for this one.
Yeah, they really did choose like characters for the other side, which is like interesting because when I'm looking at the Democrats who are speaking, they seem like pretty normal human beings. I feel like they'd be pretty good examples of your average Democrat. Meanwhile, with the Republicans, I think Aldo was like normal, and then maybe Emily is the second, maybe the MAGA hat guy, but definitely not Alex. I don't know what he was doing there. I'll go ahead and reiterate that, but I don't know that it was like the most normal swath of Republicans.
Yeah, that's a very consequential decision on Jubilee's part, because if this gets millions of views and that's what's represented to people as the right or Republicans, I mean, that's not good. And especially if you're going to have someone like, we talked about that before the show, like, you're gonna have someone like Alex Stein, you have to have someone who's like very moderate and reasonable to counterbalance that at least, and who can, go toe to toe with him and call him out.
Right, or at least give like the leftist version of Alex Stein, like get a drag queen or something, get somebody dressed in drag to like represent Democrats. If you're gonna get Alex Stein there, it doesn't really make sense. You should at least have an equal person on the other side who's like doing a bit the whole time.
Alas. Let's see. Rachel S. says, happy Monday from Wisconsin. I often listen to Daily Wire, but feel so refreshed and empowered by you to listen to both sides and avoid echo chamber. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you. That is so sweet. I love that people get a refreshing take on this channel.
One more from Forearm says, LOL, you may not like Alex Amala, but since my name is also Alex, I need to defend my guy, LOL. And he had me dying of laughter. Be so for real, Amala.
I'd be very careful. I'm sure there's a lot of criminal Alexes out there. You're going to defend them too? Not to say that Alex Stein is a criminal, although the jokes were criminal. I'll say that.
Jail.
Celtic
Blacksmith says, thanks to Amala, I never back up now. I back it up like a Tonka truck. I don't want people to be real. I want them to be so for real. I'm not the real deal. I'm the real deal, Holyfield. Too much, Amala.
All my sayings. I love that. Yeah, back it up like a Tonka truck, real deal, Holyfield. And what was the other one? Now I'm already lost. Oh, be so for real right now.
Of course, yeah.
Be so for real right now.
Classic.
Too funny.
The Amala-isms have evolved time and time again.
We're growing.
Drop your favorite Amala-ism in the chat. Nicodemus 1984 says, good evening to both of you. Great topic as usual. In France, we've been dealing with deeply economically corrupt politicians for so long that more and more people are demanding zero tolerance. Cheers.
And I'm not surprised by that at all. It just seems to be like a West problem. The corruption runs deep. Taylor's actually headed over to France. He's going to see you guys.
I'm going to be in Paris next week. Going to be watching beach volleyball, the Eiffel Towers. Although I almost wanted to cancel my trip after some of the crazy stuff I've been seeing over there, both criminality-wise and crazy shows for the opening ceremonies and all kinds of stuff. But alas, I'm a huge beach volleyball fan / player, and going to support Team USA. So
just stay safe.
I'm going to try to stay safe. Jeez. Let's see. Timothy W. again says, I heard if you say January 6th or Project 2025 3 times out loud, the far right boogeyman comes out.
Right. He's just hiding under your bed, just waiting. It's so crazy the amount of times you'll hear the same things, just thrown out. It's just like such a talking point at this point that who knows? All we can do is combat it.
All we can do. Joy says, on a lighter note, Taylor, I have binged almost all of The Last Kingdom. It's so good. Consider me influenced, LOL. I love that for you.
Is it a Vikings thing?
Better than Vikings.
Better than Vikings.
Yeah. The Vikings show is good for a while, and then the spinoff of it is woke, and it's like girl bossy. But The Last Kingdom is like one of the best shows ever.
That's nice. I've been freaking watching House of the Dragon because I thought, Game of Thrones was so good up until the end. Let's watch House of the Dragon. Womp, 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 womp. Oh my gosh. You can tell, just different showrunners, different writing, like the girl bossification of everything where women can do no wrong is so apparent in this, which is just a Game of Thrones problem in general as a franchise sometimes, but this is specifically real bad on House of the Dragon. I'm very let down by the movements of this season.
They literally cannot help themselves. It's a tragedy.
Tragic, indeed. Tragicistan.
Let's see. Mar says, a few years before Corona, our prime minister and ministers got fired because of childcare benefits scandal. It was a big thing, and we got a whole new cabinet. I still don't understand why Trump isn't fired.
In where? What?
Yeah, it didn't say the country. It's donated in euros, so whatever that tells you, some European country.
Unfortunately, I'm not following that one. I'm sorry about that.
I sympathize with people with being frustrated that people aren't getting fired in the wake of COVID, and the Secret Service lady stepped down after intense pressure, and threat of being impeached. But
they had to do her whole public flogging thing in order to make it look like, we went through the whole process, and now we have the fall guy, and now the fall guy's out. Don't you guys feel better? Even though she
For not
probably
having any answers?
so ridiculous. That's such the massive trick with this whole Secret Service thing. While everybody's like, woo, she resigned or whatever, she probably had no say in what was happening at that rally, was not even in like a leadership position as far as coordinating the people who were supposed to be at that rally and what they were going to be doing, surveilling the area, making sure the roof was secure. But she's this big fall guy who now has to resign, which, mind you, if you're the leader, there is accountability to be taken and you're partially responsible for whatever happens under your leadership. But ask more questions, guys, because there's more people responsible for that than just her. But she's the one who gets like this whole public hearing and everything and gets cast out. There's more there. We'll see.
100%. Yeah, they need to drag her back for questioning, even though she's been fired. But I do think, just as a general matter, we have swung way too far in the direction of like crazy stuff that's unforgivable happens, and we don't need to hold people accountable, and there's no ownership ever taken for anything.
Right.
That is ridiculous.
And then
to
it's
me.
like, if she is responsible for what happened during that day, making her immediately resign instead of having her held accountable through an investigation process where she finds out what went wrong, how does that make sense? You just get rid of the person who you've deemed to be responsible without letting the people know how this happened. It doesn't add up. The math is not mathing. It would make sense to keep her to at least through a pending investigation and have maybe some interim leadership instead, so that she can tell you the process that led to this assassination attempt. But no, she resigned. Aren't you guys happy? We solved the problem. I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me.
Lokalani Garcia Ho says, "You're awesome, and it is so good to listen to you because you are level-headed and know what to say. Also, do you know if the people now on what they are doing at the Capitol are being arrested?"
If what? I didn't get the last part.
People... Maybe like, wasn't there some protest at the Capitol the other day? Yeah, like the pro-Palestinian people like invaded the Capitol. And
whether or not they're getting arrested?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know anything
I believe
about
they were
that.
the charges were dropped.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I'm not too familiar with that whole story.
What you will. I think that's what she was referring to, though. Let's see. Timothy W. says, gay marriage was also enshrined into federal law via the Respect for Marriage Act. Long story short, it's not going anywhere, so be so for real.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it. I can imagine there's like a handful of Republicans who like have this dream to maybe get rid of a gay marriage or whatever. I just don't know that they'd be so successful even within their own party to push a measure forward like that. And I just don't know that it's on the priority list as far as any different measure to be pushed through, even under a Republican president. So yeah, I don't think it's going anywhere. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a boogeyman talking point for the most part. Northern Perspective says, great content, Amala. Have followed you for a while. We have the same concerns in Canada with Pierre Poilievre that our channel covers. I lost my government job because of the channel. Would love to chat about it sometime.
Lost your government because of your online channel?
Yes, because of what they're saying on YouTube, it seems.
Oh, wow. That's very fascinating. I would love to hear more about what it is that you were saying, what the reasoning behind that was. That's very interesting.
Canada's cray-cray sometimes.
We know that.
Another from Britt Cormier says, Amala, the word police only works one way. They can say what they want, and they can also demand that you cannot say what you want. How do you not get this simple concept?
Wait, what? I don't understand.
Word police only works one way. They can say what they want, and they can also demand that you cannot say what you want.
Yes.
How can you not get this simple concept? Maybe they were agreeing with you, but saying it in a weird way.
I don't know. I think we're on the same page there as far as how the word police works. I think we're seeing eye to eye on that one.
Uphex says, this guy would have fallen apart if there was a gay conservative there.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been really interesting. There didn't seem to be much of that going on as far as who they invited to represent the Republican side. I think that would have been cool to have them challenge some of the different minority marginalized cards they were pulling and have somebody there to combat that. Any person who could combat that properly. Just didn't happen on this one, unfortunately.
Yeah, 4 straight, white, firmly firmly right people
chosen
to represent, which generally we don't care that much. Just like defend your ideas.
Of course.
the ideology stances is the most important as far as we're concerned.
Get people who can properly defend them, whoever they are. Doesn't matter, you know? But in this case, I don't think they did. But
yeah. Karina says, hey, A and Tay, this is my first super chat. I used to feel so scared to share my opinion, but watching you both helped me feel more safe.
Oh,
love you both.
I love that. Yeah, go out there and share your opinions. That's part of it that, you know, people feel so scared is because people are not willing to go out and share their opinions, so they feel alone in it. And if you go out and you be the first person, more will come. Other people will come out of the woodworks. So congratulations on that, and I'm proud of you for that.
Andres says, hi, Amala. In Uruguay, they announced Kamala will win no matter what. The press is 100% corrupted by the left, and Venezuela's elections are faked to make Maduro the president again. People want to rise up, and Maduro says he will send them to jail and end the opposition. Thoughts?
Interesting thing for the press to just run with a narrative that you couldn't possibly know. I don't know why you would say that in any case. Even if that's how you wanted the election to go, why would you run full force and say that Kamala's already won? That's fascinating.
Yeah, and the Maduro stuff is crazy right now in Venezuela. But alas, I believe the Biden administration made a deal with him that they would cut sanctions if he agreed to conduct free and fair elections. And now this is happening. So how'd that work out for you? Rome official says, Amala, being a Black aspiring artist, I share the same political views you have, but I'm afraid to be open about it. But your show helps me. Thank you.
That's awesome. Be open about it. You will find support. Don't worry about it. And even if you don't, like, at least you have integrity, you know? And that doesn't mean you have to, like, wear your political ideology all over yourself or whatever. It just means when you come to a crossroads of, like, do I say something or do I not? Maybe say something and see what happens.
Yeah, you'll find real people who will connect with you over your true self and beliefs. And that's, you know, very important to all of us. Chris says, I'm a D-trans 16-year-old. I transitioned at 12 and D-trans at 14 due to ideologies put onto me during COVID. It's why I don't support gender at all.
Right. And it's like, did somebody come and tally you for a survey and you're now added to the stats of people who detransition? I'm very curious as to how that process works and how they feel they have accurate numbers on people who detransition. And to your own personal story, very brave thing to go through and to do and to decide you want to move back in an opposite direction. And I can't imagine how difficult a process that is and how everything would be like fluctuating in your brain with all the things that you're experiencing. So I wish you all the best in your journey. And that's so cool that you're just like open and talking about this and talking about the fact that you've gone through something like this.
100%. John T555 says, hey, Amala, I wanted to say that it's my birthday today and I love your show and watching your videos. You are amazing and my hero. Keep up the good work.
Oh, nice. Happy birthday. That was the wrong button. What button was that? A boom button for your birthday. Happy birthday. That was a much more pleasant sound, that one. Happy birthday to you and thank you for spending part of it with us. I appreciate that.
Yeah, happy birthday. That's awesome. Let's see. Great Cormier again says, going back to the age thing, at the end of your years, you will not be around long enough to see the consequences of your vote. This is why there should be an upper limit for public office. I say this as someone over 50.
Yeah, I can understand that. I don't know how many people realistically, though, are not worried about like how they leave the earth. I think people have children and family and people that they're associated with who are younger than them. I don't think the average older person is like, F the earth, I don't care, I'm on the way out. Although you might find a few who sort of share that sentiment. I don't know how seriously they share it, though. I think sort of built into human existence is a care for how others go on after you and how those younger than you, especially your family members, the world that they inherit from you. So I don't know that it's that much of an issue that I would put like a staunch age limit on people because I'm concerned they're going to become like sort of psychopathic in their tendencies because they don't care because they're going to die. You know what I mean? Right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get I don't think that would be the justification for imposing an age limit. I'm less optimistic about human nature than you, I think, in that regard. And I think just in terms of like incentive structures, people, if people have no incentive to like make things better, I'm not just going to ascribe it to their their good nature that they will, try to make things better for humanity. But also, I don't think that necessitates an age limit, or that rises to the level of needing one.
Right.
Like we said before, I'm more on the camp of like, it's about your mental fitness and whether, and we don't need to bring in all these other elements into the discussion.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kelbier also has opinion on the age thing. Says issue with 80 plus is that every year after the chance of just randomly dying goes up and up, age should definitely be considered, but performance means more for me.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with the integration of like tech into medicine, it's going to be easier and easier to decipher, like the mental capacity of people, the physical capacity of people. We're going to have tech that will be able to determine, pretty accurately when they think you will die, given that it's of natural causes and not, something that happens out of the blue. I think our ever-evolving technology and science is going to create an issue if there were some sort of age limit.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to think about. I mean, you think about like life insurance, and like if you're a certain age, you just based on probability and statistics, you're not going to get a policy, or you have to pay a lot more for a policy, just based on age. But they also factor in health and other things, and yeah, I mean, it's tough. I also find it rich that the people who are like, if Trump gets elected, he'll never give up power or whatever. It's like, how worried are you really going to be? By the time his 4-year term's over, he's going to be 82 years old. So
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of silly, but
yeah, a pretty formidable foe at that age.
yeah. Timothy W says, I feel like you could make a really fun drinking game out of watching this video.
Every
missed
temper
opportunity, I
tantrum,
guess.
you just take a shot. I would be blackout. I don't drink. So, that's, or at least I don't drink regularly, I should say.
Yeah, that would be brutal.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't work. It wouldn't work for me.
CLJ says there are several types of democracy, and a constitutional republic is actually a mixture of two. Just silly semantics at this point.
It is, yeah. They were just kind of talking past each other. I feel like in a general sense they would agree. But, what happened with this video happened.
Yeah, I mean,
they weren't there to agree.
It's a lack of nuance on the left-leaning side to just say individual agency within a political system, or the agency of the people broadly, is just let's label that democracy and then be super pro-democracy. Everything's democracy because technically the system under which you live is not a democracy. So it's a valid discussion to be had, but it should be in service of, exchanging ideas and stuff. And that was just in service of like trying to score points on one another. And that's why it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kelber again says, anyone who can should spam $2 super chats for the 2-hour stream and then doing all the super chats after that wild ride. Just saying. Joke's on you, because we have in our pinned comment $5 minimum super chats to
That's
be read.
how we do our super chats, yeah.
Nice try. Well, some of y'all spam the $5 ones and do that anyway.
That's true.
But yeah, don't give us more money and keep us here. Don't try. No, it's fine.
Just kidding, guys.
Isaac Gorski says, Alex is actually my least favorite of all the right-wing commentators. I laugh at over-the-top antics, but actual discourse is not his thing.
Yeah, you would just imagine the comedic troll aspect undercuts any valid argument that you make, whether or not we like that's the case or not. It's kind of, if you're going to mix both of those together, you end up picking the lane of comedy, and that becomes the forefront of the argument that you make. If you're undercutting every single, valid point you would make with a joke or bullying at someone's expense, as he did many times throughout this.
And it's kind of sad because he demonstrated that he's capable of like speaking cogently about these things and making valid points, but like you said, it just kind of undercuts it when it's a whole shtick. And even the people in the room with him are like, you weren't like this when the camera wasn't on.
Right.
So
yeah. Like, how much better would it be to have two sides of your personality? Like one where you can really throw down and be serious, and then another on your show where like you're funny, or you go to the school board meetings and you play this character. And I think that's a cool like juxtaposition within a person. But when it happens simultaneously, it's very jarring and inauthentic, and it just doesn't land.
Ori Husky says, I'm surprised I'm not alone here from the Czech Republic. Anyways, wanted to say thank you for your content. It's nice to learn more about politics.
Hey, very cool. The Czech Republic is representing today. Love that. That is so cool.
Love that for you. Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
Celtic Blacksmith says, some people say the Amala-isms are out of control. I say to each their own, squeeze a trombone. Or
There
whatever
we go.
Amala
There
says.
will be more. There will be more. I'm going to come up with more isms for you guys.
Upex again says, with the fake Mamala is running right now, with the fake Mamala running right now, I stand by the real Mamala 2036, even if you think that idea sucks.
Thank you guys. I appreciate the support from you in my future presidential run that will not be taking place, but I love that you are optimistic about it.
Someone's going to cut that clip, just that future presidential run. And it's going to go viral.
Media matters.
Yeah. The Jim says, what do ghosts wear when they go for a walk? Boots.
Wow. That was a rough one.
I mean, I'm a dad joke guy, and I mean, that was...
It didn't work for Taylor. If it didn't work for
a nice
Taylor,
try.
it was a good
Yeah,
try.
I appreciate
it really
the
was.
effort.
Yes.
Sasha O'Neill says, guys, like and subscribe if you haven't already. A&T, congrats on 2 million subs. Proud to be an OG of such an amazing community. Keep up the good work.
That is so awesome. Thank you guys. Yeah, and thanks again for 2 million subs. That is such a crazy number. I can't even fathom what 2 million people looks like, let alone the fact that they've all subscribed to this channel. So that is crazy. Thank you, each and every one of you.
Sar says, hi, Amala. Just wanted to say thank you for the amazing content you guys produce. You have definitely helped shift my perspective for the better.
You guys are too nice. You give me so many compliments in the super chat. I can't take it. I'm not good at taking compliments. But thank you guys. That is so nice. Oh
Yeah,
my
it
goodness.
really is awesome to hear.
It
that,
is.
You know, you guys, we see these numbers like, okay, X number of people watching or that saw this one, but it's so cool to hear from y'all in your own words, like how this is hitting you. So thank you. Lokalani again says, it was what I meant about the protest at the Capitol. Sorry, I'm at work. Was just trying to be quick on the typing.
I don't remember this one. Now I've lost.
That's the one that I think I was referring to earlier about the Palestinians who were
okay, like whether or not they were going to be taken care of. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you should be pretty even-handed in that, but you didn't even I didn't even hear the coverage of that, to be honest, but maybe I was just not very active on the day that took place.
Nick Levin says, politicians will not save you. Your only salvation is to take away their power of the infinite money printer. Invest in Bitcoin.
Interesting. Okay, interesting solution. I have yet to invest in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is our savior.
Bitcoin is our savior. Bitcoin's the future.
Honestly, though, I saw that the interest on our national debt is now like what, $35 billion or something crazy like that, or trillion.
Oh my gosh.
It's bigger than the defense budget. We have to pay an interest on our debt, and no one's talking about it. Elon Musk keeps tweeting these and saying, like, by the way, we're going bankrupt.
Right.
It's crazy to me that neither candidate really wants to tackle that or make it a big deal, because it seems like it needs to be a big deal. And that's one knock against Trump. Like, he didn't tamp down on spending. Now, I guess COVID hit during his tenure, so you could maybe blame that. But even so,
maybe they know it's untackleable. That's why they're not talking about it.
Then what do we do? Just all continue pretending nothing happens?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't ask me. That's why I'm not running for president.
Yeah. Don't ask me till 2038. If we're still here, our democracy is not over. Gopex says, I am not as benevolent as Mamala. I need to correct my name. Qfex. Oh, my bad. Cuphex. Qfex.
Got it. Okay. Understood.
Gotcha. I'm usually good. I try to be good with pronouncing y'all's names and usernames, but
that's true.
They'll throw me for a loop still sometimes. David Brennan says, TBH, I feel like Jubilee tend to get the most clickbaity extremist Republicans and Democrats on every debate. They're never regular Dems or Republicans.
I don't know. The Dems felt pretty regular on this one. Nothing's too, like, crazy. They seem like pretty average Democrats to me. But I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think it was necessarily a concerted effort on Jubilee's part to portray Republicans as more extremist, but it definitely kind of comes off like that when you have the the lineup that you did today. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. Just gotta wait till Amala gets on those Jubilee videos. A couple more coming soon.
Yeah, I can't tell you what they are, but they are coming. Okay.
Chris says, to your comment, my med provider never asked me to be in a study when I detransitioned, but asked me to be in a study when I did transition.
Interesting. So I wonder what the follow-up on that's going to be. Is it a longitudinal study where they check back in on you to see where you're at on that? Very interesting.
Yeah. Selective reporting by institutions? Color me shocked.
Yeah, right.
Martin Slaby says, where is the U.S. headed with so many people supporting communism and socialism? I come from a country that was under socialist totalitarian rule, so I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are asking these days. Where are we headed when people are supporting these sorts of ideas that have long failed? And that's a great question. Well, we're going to all find out. We're going to all be here to experience it. Who knows?
Yeah, how wild is it that the senator who was voted most radical or rated most radical in 2019, more radical than socialist Bernie Sanders, who was too radical to run in 2016 and 2020. That's so much so that the Democrats had to rig the election against him. That he's now the nominee. It's like, that is cray.
Yeah.
He's always talking about equity and all these things.
Yeah, she's encouraging people to riot and all. Yeah, I don't know.
And that the long-haired guy earlier was talking about, democracy means anti-authoritarianism, but it's like the tyranny of the majority is still authoritarian. And also he was very supportive of bureaucracy. And if you have a certain ideology that 51% of the population or 50% of the population plus some fun monkey business or whatever gets to impose on all the rest of society through a giant bureaucratic state, that's pretty authoritarian. So it's not very consistent to say I'm Mr. Anti-authoritarian, but
very good point. Very true.
DeAndre Cleaver says, would be nice if when you registered to vote, they made you take some sort of cognitive test to find you fit every election.
Yeah, I guess they
Find
don't
that you're
call
fit
that.
every election.
I think they'd call that illegal. What they used to have, like the literacy requirements or whatever for voting, and then they said that was racist towards Black people who were illiterate and things like that, and that it was a concerted effort to keep Black people from voting or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think there should be some sort of, like, if I was the ruler of the world, there'd be some sort of competence test for you to be able to vote. You'd have to be able to, like, generally describe the side you're voting for and why, what policies are important to you. You'd have to know, like, the candidate that you're supporting and why you're supporting them, which a lot of people don't even know that stuff, and they're still voting. This whole, like, everybody needs to vote thing is BS to me. Everybody who's competent needs to vote. And competency is not based on your values. You can disagree with me and still be competent, but, we got some crazy people voting.
And some dead people voting. I'm just kidding.
And some illegals voting.
Yeah. Chris says, how do you feel about the bizarre Olympic opening ceremony? I personally feel it was inspired by the Last Supper and they're trying to gaslight us.
Yeah, I don't know. They said that it wasn't actually inspired by that. And it was actually something like Dionysus or something. Some like old... Grecian something or other that had to do with
Greek
the Olympics.
Mythological god,
which went in looking at the reference for that did sort of make sense, but I don't know, it's hard to tell. There's also religious imagery that was present, but that could also be leaning on the time period of which you were referencing. So I don't feel strongly about it either way. I'm not a religious person, so it's not going to offend me. And if you are a religious person and people who are not within your religion make fun of the religion or like use symbols from the religion in a way that is not indicative of the actual religion itself, I'm not sure how that directly affects you. It's more so that like France, who is sponsoring this Olympics and having it going on and is doing that, if they are making fun of the religion, that's a pretty concerning thing. And it does seem to be like from the perspective of a non-religious person, if there is a religion to like make fun of or to like do these symbolic gestures towards, it's Christianity. You would never see this done towards Islam, and for obvious reasons, right? Okay, like Charlie Hebdo might be a good example of why nobody would ever utilize imagery from that religion. So it just speaks to where we're at currently. But I don't know what if what they were doing was actually meant to inflame that.
Broadly, I mean, if you take their statements at face value, then it was more like not necessarily supposed to be this Last Supper thing, but the name of the entire thing was like in French, La Seine, like, which does apparently explicitly refer to the Last Supper. And then the performer, who was in the Jesus position, also posted on her Instagram saying like, we're the new queer New Testament, and had several things that she had posted that indicated that at least she thought it was to be directed at least to some degree at Christianity. And just like, you know, the obvious sort of position of everything, it's like, okay, you can say what you want to say, but that's clearly how it was taken. I mean, even prominent figures like Elon Musk and them are like, this seems very offensive to Christians. As a Christian, I do think like some of the outrage is a little overwrought and goes beyond the facts, and also is, I guess, misguided. But you know, it's also clear what they're doing. Like you said, if there is an effort to subvert or, you know, malign a religion these days in major Western countries, it's generally Christianity. And you know, to me as a Christian, I take that and I'm telling you, it's like, why are we living rent free? Why are you so bothered by this? Is it because there's actual merit, even historically and culturally, to what you are protesting, or at least substance to it? But anyways, I digress. I thought about doing a video on all that, but it's just like so
it's just like, if this was happening outside of the Olympics and some group had just put together this thing that was supposed to be made fun of the Last Supper, who cares? Okay, it's just the fact that it's sort of like a sponsored event that's meant to be this like worldly thing that people tune into. And I don't know, you should be able to do it for all religions, is my opinion. That's the thing. Mine is not to tamp down on these acts of like protest or like subverting religious norms or symbolism or whatever, although I don't support the government doing that in something like the Olympics, but you should be even-handed in being able to do that for all religions if that's something that's allowed.
Yeah, I agree. Like you should be able to criticize anything. It's just seems to be strange and in poor taste to use the Olympic opening ceremony, in which theoretically you have the eyes of the world on you, to like, we got to put people in drag, which have nothing to do with sports or the games or anything, and recreate this. It makes absolutely no sense.
It's weird.
Yeah. Anywho, so there you got your $5 worth on your super chat on that one. Chicken Pork Adobo says, I was called coconut brown boy, white man servant, etc. when I came out as a Trump supporter back in 2018. Now I have a proper rebuttal and knowledge after watching all your videos and Destiny's videos.
Hey, nice. Love to hear that. I wonder what Destiny has equipped you with on that one, because he tends to hate Trump supporters these days, in some of the clips that I'm seeing of him online. But yeah, I'm glad. You should have some rebuttals for people who think that of you.
Yeah, maybe he's watching them to steelman the left-leaning positions. But yeah, these days there's some crazy stuff coming out of those streams. Coconut. Did you fall out of a coconut tree?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Celtic Blacksmith says, 2 million subs, huh? Not to brag, but my channel is up to a whopping 24. So I can teach you a thing or two. LMAO, I'm so full of shit today.
No, I'll hear you out. You know, we're all on our journeys. 24 ain't nothing. 24 ain't nothing.
Start to Project 25. Project 2025. Timothy W says, I put $600 into Bitcoin, waited a few months, sold it, and made over $300. Worked for me.
Hey, love that for you. Hey.
Is that what the W's for in Timothy W?
There you go. Wow, with the dad jokes, Taylor.
Hey,
one after the other.
Balancing Scrubs books and something else. Name's too long, can't see. Thank you for your content. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I'm an independent. And you've definitely put things in perspective with all the informative content and debates.
Love to hear that. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much.
Love it. Mar says, whoops, forgot to say which country I live in, but it's the Netherlands. Love your content.
Oh, the Netherlands, beautiful, beautiful place. I was there for 3 days once and it was lovely.
Yeah, I spent some time in Amsterdam. It's a cool place. One more from Britt Cormier. My borrowed definition of democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. Liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting this vote.
Whoa, I have to think about that for a second. Hold on. I'm going to have to look into that quote. Y'all, maybe I've done too much thinking today, but that one went over my head.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think I get it. But yeah, thank you. Oh, wait, are we caught up here? No, there's a few more coming in. There's a few more. Let's see. LA Native says Christianity is targeted because Christianity won't fight back. The bully will always pick on the person that most allows it. They won't satire Islam because of the potential backlash.
Right. And that's not to say that Christians need to start fighting back against people who have criticism for their religion. It's to say that we shouldn't allow like religious extremism in any sense to fight back against criticism or satirization of religion. If somebody doesn't agree with you, you don't agree with them, in the same way that Christians should be able to satirize the people who don't believe in God or Jesus if they so see fit. That is what a free, pluralistic society looks like. So it's more an indictment on radical Islam that they can create such backlash that puts a fear in people of being able to put their skepticism or satirization of the religion out there than it is an indictment on Christians or some sort of call for Christians to having to fight back. And I have to think, you know, if you feel as though you're in the true religion and that all will be well because of your adherence to this true religion, what all do you care that somebody's satirizing your religion? Like, you're going to be fine. I guess the afterlife is going to support you after all of this. So I don't know what all the battling on the ground would need to be about, unless people are like actively attacking you or infringing on your right to practice that religion. Then that's a different ballgame.
Yeah, and especially when your religion is one whose founder espouses things like turn the other cheek and love your enemies and things like that. So there is all that. But yeah, I think if there's any other criticism, it'd just be of the it should be fair game to criticize any religion, but there also on the part of the society should not be a double standard with regard to which religions are protected or which religions are shielded from criticism either. Yep. So we need to be even-handed on that front as well. And then I think there's less grounds for frustration. So
Right. Well, we have like a whole term for like Islamophobia and nothing for anything else, which is just very interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
And I think a lot of it has to do with like the history of Christianity and like the influence historically Christianity has had on Western civilization. And it makes it so like, well, I'm criticizing my own sort of, history or whatever. And therefore, that's inherently good. But it's like you can't have it both ways. If you're divorcing yourself from that past and saying we're in this other separate society now, well, then this is a religion that should be a protected category and you shouldn't be allowed to, come at it in that way. So, can't have your cake and eat it too in that regard. But I digress. One coming in here from Sarah Malie Olsund. Greeting, lots of love from a Norwegian, also former leftist. I only recorded the ceremony because of Dion. Now I do have to watch it. Jazz on, love the content.
You're talking about the ceremony, the Olympic ceremony?
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I still haven't gone to watch it. I honestly don't watch the Olympics. I don't really care. Maybe I'll watch like clips from the gymnastics, but I could not have cared less about this. I
never watched the opening ceremony. I mean, they used to be like these cool cultural displays that, were kind of like unique and artistic and meant something. And this was just like a strange sort of appropriation of that opportunity to send some weird messaging that was very awkward. Yeah. But even so, I was never like, oh, got to tune into the opening ceremony. I know a lot of people are, but I'm just a huge fan of the sport of beach volleyball. I play it and follow it. And that's the extent of my interest in the games this time around. I follow it the 3 years, not Olympic years. So whatever. Okay. I think we are caught up and that was it. By the way, shout out to
one more. From Tim Carter.
They won the gold last time in beach volleyball. Surprisingly, they have the best beach volleyball team. But Sweden might give them a run for their money. Tim Carter says, hi, Amala. In reference to Trump's golf game earlier in the debate, I was wondering if you would join my new dance troupe, the Swinging Dingers.
The Swinging Dingers? What? I have no idea what that is. And to be honest, I don't get it. I will not be joining any dance troops anytime soon. I don't think you guys would want to be privy to that. But that's an
strange name, not with
note.
that name at least.
Yeah, not with that name. Definitely not with that name. I think we are going to close out today's show. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Plus, we post videos for you guys every single day. Tomorrow's video is about a Zoom call that over 100,000 liberal white women were on. Whoo, nightmare blunt rotation. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. It was all for Kamala Harris. They raised over $8 million. So keep an eye out. Leave your thoughts in the comments. As always, if you disagree with anything said in this video, duke it out, but do so respectfully. You know, we encourage healthy debate on this channel, but we want to keep it healthy with a capital H. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. For what, 3 hours? We've been hanging around. We're going to see you next time. Bye, guys.